Welcome back, everyone, as we are jumping in, I guess continuing North America more than jumping in, but jumping up onto the other side of the bracket for Swiss. It's Gore, it's inbound, and it is going to be a very, very fun one again. Team name, but with 5Ms. Food Drive for Globe. A couple of teams that have been playing incredibly well over the last few weeks. And Food Drive for Globe, team name with 5Ms. Like, you can see them in the community tournaments as well. Like, they are popping up and getting practice wherever they can at inbound. I think that is part of what makes this one such an interesting matchup, is knowing how often they are going out there and seeking their training arc, right? They're finding everything they can to get stronger, and every week they come back looking even better. I think you're still muted in Discord. Yeah.
I am muted in Discord.
There you
I
go.
remember hitting it. And as I was saying, while muted, you can see these teams actually playing. You can see them in these tournaments. You can see them playing scrims because they're streaming a lot of those things.
Yeah.
They're getting a lot of repetitions, and it's showing they're playing very well.
And speaking of, last week we got a sneak peek because Mike was streaming literally like up an hour and a half prior to his set, where he was practicing a lot of Neath support. We got into the set, we got to see it. I was just looking for him, did not see him, so I expect to see it soon. But for now, we'll throw up the bracket. Maybe we'll find Mike afterward. So I do see, yeah, PBM Smite officially live. So he's hiding tech from us now. But it is going to be very fun. You can see him up at the top, match number 17 of this long and large Swiss bracket. Cowabunga name in progress, one we're going to be looking into tomorrow, which is another one I'm really excited to see, just because of what those teams have been able to accomplish. And you can see where some of these offline matches have been going. Specifically, I see Secret Service taking a win over Look Within, so they're taking a step forward potentially to qualifying towards playoffs in the future. But who cares about qualify? Well, I guess it is still in the future. So what I was going to use as a segue doesn't work, but they're going to qualify right now, which is the bigger thing. It's still in the future. They still have 2 games to go at minimum. But Food Drive for Globe, team name, but with 5Ms. And you had kind of already mentioned it. A few of these players who are going to be streaming their perspectives. But on top of that, the level of play, it feels like it's escalating here, right? A lot of these players who have been around for a while, been in high pressure situations, this is going to be just gonna blow my mind away. I want to see what the meta is. What gods are they banning? Are they letting Emoja through? Like, there are a lot of questions I want answered.
Yeah, and I think we've seen genuine steps taken by this Food Drive for Globe team. First time we saw them playing Smite 2, I mean, they're a bunch of SEC players, very talented players, but the more we're seeing of them, the better they're getting, the more on the same page, the more their 1v1s look better, the more their groupings look better, their macro, their gold fears, objectives, all that good stuff is improving. And that's the most tantalizing thing, is these teams are only going to get better. And this is a game to show how good you've actually gotten, or how good you are if you're on the team with 5M's team.
And, we had kind of talked about it, and there was a discussion that was had, in Smite 1 over the last few years, where a lot of those teams that were in, the Challenger Circuit or Minor League or whatever it happened to be called the year of, would get a ton of practice against other teams like that. But then because the SPL, especially when it moved to Atlanta, a lot of the SPL players would just kind of scrim each other. And so there was a large gap even between the lowest SPL team and the top of the SEC. But now you're getting that, like, everybody's in the same pool, right? So you're going to be playing against the best of the best and the worst of the worst week in and week out. So you're going to get a lot of practice both from ahead, from behind, against people who are better than you, against people who are worse than you. You're going to learn a lot about the game. And I think that has been something I expected to see benefit a lot of these teams. But if I'm being completely honest, I thought this was the week. Like, I was thinking Swiss week 3, this is when we're going to see the turnaround. Some of these teams, something's going to click. The practice is going to start showing, and that's when the grind is going to be there. Food Drive for Globe has been kind of hitting the ground running, right? There's still been teams, as you had mentioned, in their way. So it's not been the easiest cakewalk to get up here. But it is still a very, very impressive run that they've been able to make. And again, kind of showed me that I didn't know maybe as much as what I was thinking I did at the very beginning. Teams hit the ground running way quicker than I expected. And now you're in this position to play up against a team like Team Name, but with 5Ms. And it means that we get a lot of interesting things. Will Mike play Neath support? Will we get to see I just mentioned like the Emoja, the Baron, who we haven't gotten to see in North America at least today. The good news is instead of having to make you flounder and answer those questions yourselves, we can just find them and jump into picks and bans here and see what gets banned off first. Food Drive for Globe will be the first pick, which means what? Last time we were looking at Fenrir, Jingwei's been in that conversation, but I feel like there's a lot more gods now available that maybe take precedent over what Jingwei is going to bring to the table.
Yeah, and really surprising ban out of the gate. Loki, not necessarily something you deem as bannable. It's usually like a solid pick, a counter pick, anything like that. But Food Drive for Globe opting to throw it away. Fenrir now available. Baron just banned by team with 5Ms. Fenrir is now available. We've also seen a lot of Yemoja prio. I mean, it makes a ton of sense. Yemoja's been very strong for now 8 years or something like that. But Fenrir, again, flex potential. We could say it 100 times. The god is really good because of its ultimate and its flex potential. Makes a lot of sense for Food Drive to Globe to lock it in. And team with 5Ms, locking them in the Hecate. Just by far, I think the best mid laner available, best mid lane magical god. Yes, you can play Neath there, but it's not magical. It's not that magical source of damage. It's only physical. So it makes a lot of sense just getting this Hecate because Cuckoo good, not great. Nua good, not great. Confirming this is the best source for it.
And that's actually something, you know, we haven't had that discussion maybe as much, but there were a lot of times where we'd see like the Neath picked up, and this was where it was great when Soul was such a high level carry for a lot of these teams. You could throw Neath mid and you weren't losing your magical damage. You just throw Soul over into the duo lane and you're fine. Soul falling off kind of, like you said, makes it so that you want to lean a little more heavy. You still want to find that balance where you can. Speaking of balance, Anubis we've seen on the rise. Last week he started to pick up, and like you said, despite some nerfs, he's still pretty prominent and still prevalent. Yemoja has not been looked at. In fact, Food Drive for Globe, Fenrir, Odin, Athena, of all things, get picked up over her. And this kind of catches me off guard. Athena has not been really a mainstay, despite the fact that she's still pretty solid. Just feels like there's other best in slots for that role.
And I'm glad you worded it exactly how you did, specifying Athena's not really the issue. It's not like she's a bad god. You're not throwing your draft by drafting Athena, but it's the no Yemoja pick. And team with 5Ms is also doubling down on no Yemoja, picking the Bacchus Neath. We might see an entire P's and B's section going by without a Yemoja for the first time in a long time, Gore, dating back to SMITE 1 because of how strong that she's been. And Cuckoo opted for Food Drive for Globe. When I think of Globe, I actually think of Cuckoo more often than I think of Hecate, because I think they just don't care to prio Hecate because of how good he looks on this Cuckoo. And I think if you can get to a spot where, yes, maybe they agree that Hecate's the best mid lane god, but if your second best god is nearly as good as the enemy's first best god and they're forced to prio it, there's a lot of value in that Cuckoo pick. And on top of him getting this Cuckoo, we've got to talk about Tegvir Susano because he's the only one playing this in duo Gore. He loves locking in the Susano, playing it in duo lane, and Food Drive for Globe goes for this almost full dive comp, and he gets a ton of solo kills over there. Why aren't other teams trying to do this also? Or maybe they have tried, and Tegvir's the only one that can do it.
It feels like what we're going to see, and this is really evident by the drafts we got, because like you mentioned, Tegvir, who will play Susano in the duo and go for this dive. We've also got Hades, Anubis, Hecate, someone on that team. I mean, Anubis jungle is somewhere I have in my heart, but I also don't play at the level that these guys do. So realistically, it is really fun to see. But Team Name with 5Ms showcasing that it's not just Food Drive for Globe that are going to be playing things in a different spot and in a different way. It also goes to do the opposite of what I was talking about earlier, where we were like lacking magical damage because a lot of people would go like Neath, Jingwei, you know, let's say Susano plus a Mordred, and then they'd have Bacchus, Ymir, somebody on their team like that, and you'd be lacking magical damage. It's kind of the other way around. Physical damage is going to be a little harder to come by for Team Name with 5Ms, but a lot of magical damage and a lot of burn potential that they've been able to draft up here. I am flabbergasted. I'll save you the effort of trying to figure out where things are going to go, and instead we'll just find out together in game number 1 here of the second set of the day for North America, 4th set of the day overall. I'm gonna be real with you. There were a lot of times. There were I'm glad I didn't make any predictions. I said a couple things, but I'm glad I didn't lock anything in. I'm glad I didn't make you lock anything in because this is a Bacchus in the jungle. And inbound, I want to know, am I foolish for not having expected this?
Gore, you are not foolish for not being aware of the Bacchus jungle. This is something that I actually have seen prop up a little bit more and more. And combining with this Bacchus jungle, we have Anubis support. Something that we've probably never seen. If I told you in Smite 1 that somebody was playing Anubis support, you probably would assume they're griefing. But again, these active items that you have access to make it so you can play these slightly funkier things because you have the opportunity to buy immunity with the purification. You have the opportunity to buy a winged blade and proc it whenever you want it to get that movement speed to get out. It's going to be interesting to see how he's looking to pilot this Anubis and how Scream pilots this Bacchus. What are their builds going to look like? Are we going to see a conch come out in the jungle? Is Mike going to build any semblance of damage? I would expect to see a little bit of damage coming out of Mike because he's combining it with this beads. Usually you go this beads when you're building a little bit more safe, or when you're building a little less safe. So when you combine it with that, maybe you're just rushing that Chronos pendant, something that we've seen a lot of with this Anubis. Either way though, Gore, very weird start to this game. Even before P's and B's, or right after P's and B's, how they are starting. Bacchus, not something we've seen from the jungle, but what can you expect from Bacchus and why is it that good? One, his clear's gotten better. He is actually a solid clear god now. He can opt into this Boombas hammer. Yes, he doesn't have great on the side minions with the Boombas hammer, but his 3 does enough damage. He's got extra damage in his 2 now, scaling with his protections. It's a weird pick, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about like Odin jungle and how that works. It's more utility than outright damage, but you can't underestimate how much damage he'll do.
And it's something that, you know, for a long time we saw him kind of flexing over to solo lane, right? Like, it's not necessarily outlandish to think of Bacchus as a damage dealer. It just feels like a lot of those things got taken away from him one way or another. But Scream, look, Scream's known for doing things that are unconventional. Of course, it's taking our eyes a little bit more than the Athena jungle that's existing on the other side, which, wow. Again, while it's not something that is unheard of in the past, I have not seen it in Smite 2. So in Valo, giving us a treat in a show, which goes to show, and you mentioned this earlier, but like with how many patches, how often updates are rolling through, balance and otherwise, things are going to be shifting up and down on the tier list so often, so much. And it means that you get interesting things like this. You had mentioned the dive potential that Food Drive for Globe has, but you also have to I guess, recognize the other side of that, which is you might dive too far on occasion. And it's just a couple of backs, but Happen and Tegveer, I'm watching with interest to see what happens on that lane.
And you know, it is something that I did not notice, the Athena in the jungle. I again, same as you, I focused on the Bacchus, I focused on the Anubis, but I kind of like the Athena jungle, and I prefer the Fenrir in support. When you think about how this comp for Food Drive for Globe is going to play, and you think about how this 2v2 is going to play. So firstly, this 2v2, Athena doesn't really have the damage with Susanoo to kill, to threaten. Fenrir does that exactly, he does it perfectly. He has the damage, he has the CC, he has the threat. Mike's got to be careful. Cyclone's got to be careful with where they're positioning. They can freeze the wave at tower line, and there's a threat where if you are too far forward, we have the CC and the chase potential. And Athena in the jungle, you can build a little bit more damage. So when you are landing down, when you're ulting onto Susanoo, when you're ulting onto Odin or onto the Fenrir, there's a lot of damage threat. I like how they kind of flip their comp around. And it's, well, it's not too surprising because when Tegveer does play the Susanoo, he likes pairing it with Happen's Fenrir. It's still just surprising to see because you think of Athena as this tank, this guardian, but she plays a lot more damagey now.
Well, you've talked about dive, and now we're seeing it in action happen. Tegveer and poor Mike in between. The jump finally gets the kill. I admire it. I think Happen holding on a little bit, trying to make sure Tegveer could get the first blood, but there's a certain point where getting the kill, period, takes precedent over giving the kill to the right person. PBM goes down, Food Drive for Globe find themselves up 1-0, and immediately they're going for invades.
And honestly, I'd argue a Fed Fenrir support might be better than just getting the Susanoo that first blood, because Susanoo's going to have, you know, prio in this lane anyway. And as I'm talking about that, blink in by Happen, picks up Mike. Probably doesn't have any possibility of surviving this, and Cyclone isn't here. Another kill in the duo lane. Happen gets it again. Gore, this is going to be a Fed Fenrir who's going to do a ton of damage, and you're not going to be able to kill him because of how tanky he's going to be with these levels.
love the jump in. And again, the presence, like you said, they've had just because of how hard they're going to farm. And I don't know, like, so inbound again, the amount of times I've seen Anubis support from anyone that wasn't JMac is pretty limited.
That was probably something you didn't want to see.
Yeah. Honestly, that's a lot of the gods that he locks in his support. But, you know, call me crazy. I can't imagine that this is a god that you can go 0-2 on, be down 2 levels for your other, like, the enemy support, and feel like you're doing really well. Like, there's not a lot. Like, you've got a slow, you've got your stun. At least that's still part of your kit, but it does feel like you're going to be missing out on a lot of what you're trying to bring here, especially now you've got Valo coming in. Good taunt. Cyclone gets shut down. This belly flop and Intoxicate. Yeah, you've got a little bit of turnaround, but do you have the damage to find anything, or is this just going to look even better for Food Drive for Globe if you try to fight it? And I think the lack of initiation from Team But With 5Ms kind of showcases that, yeah, it's a little frightening. Karmic just off the mark. That actually is the difference between a kill and a drop right there. Cherry gets away with his life.
And seeing that drop kill there, it's not the worst play. If he hits the 3, he gets the kill. Forced to go back to base, will walk back. This is still just as good as a kill. I feel like people underestimate how good it is just to force a back. Cherry's missing that entire wave. Yes, Scream does soak it up, but we've got a 1.5 level lead over in duo lane, and actually, Scream's taking another wave. If this is what's happening when they're like only a level difference, Karmic might be able to bully out lane even harder. He's got that Genji's finished. You look at Cherry. Cherry's working towards that Cronus Pendant, but it's not done yet. Now you have pressure in both side lanes. It's going to be hard for Mike to walk up. Or they're getting zoned from waves completely. Missing waves, missing XP. Tegveer and Happen, level 6, level 7. PBM and Cyclone, PBM's not even 5 yet at 6.5 minutes, and he's opting for a damage-oriented item. It is a disaster so far for Team with 5Ms, and it's something we talked about earlier in the day. The more we see a Food Drive for Globe, the more we like what we see. They are playing their style of Smite, and they're playing it better than other teams are playing the meta, quote-unquote. We don't see Susano. Tegveer looks phenomenal on it. We don't see Athena jungle. Vala looks phenomenal on it. We see a ton of Odins who don't really care to comment on that, but it's still doing very, very well. And then Globe on this Cuckoo is just getting not pressured at all. Cuckoo is not picked because he's just not very effective early game. The late game of him is phenomenal still, but if you don't have to worry about the early game because of how dominant side lanes are, Cuckoo's going to do just as much as the Akate will when it comes late game.
Yeah, this is something, especially, I mean, in the right hands, Cuckoo goes crazy, and I feel like we've gotten to see that pretty consistently over the years. And one thing that, you know, we don't talk as much about, and I feel like maybe it's just because of the quantity of fights, maybe it's where they're taking place. There's a lot more in the lane, and the lanes are kind of wide, and maybe we'll have to hold that thought. Cherry taunted back in. Damage seems to be pretty solid. Karmic, what a shell and a shield to make sure you stay alive. Maybe a little unnecessary. It looks like they double tapped it and weren't expecting it. But you walk away alive and you get a kill, so I think they can be happy. But what I was going to say is Cuckoo will, you know, since we were talking about him, like narrow jungle corridors, fire giant fights, gold fury fights, like you've got secure, you've got damage, and you've got lockdown, and unfortunately you are still decently immobile. That ult not going to connect with anybody, so it won't show off how much damage it does. Instead, Team Name But With 5Ms, they put themselves on the board.
That's the issue at this point with the Kukulkan. You're forced to go into like a shell for the late game or an Aegis for the late game. You don't have that possibility of beating the ultimate. And there's a lot of CC on the side of Team With 5Ms. It's just rather short lane CC, or a short range CC. Hades has got the dash, or Hades has got the ultimate, but you've got to kind of be in dash range. Bacchus has flop range. We've seen a lot of, actually, Karmic taking a lot of damage here. Cyclone is actually forced to rotate over here. Karmic does not have the abilities up, and Cyclone gets the kill. And Gord, it could not have gone to somebody better because Cyclone was floundering over in duo lane.
Yeah, it is just man, an unfortunate position, I think, to be in. But now being able to pick up a little more pressure overall, right? Team Name But With 5Ms. 2,000 gold separate the two teams. It's in favor of Food Drive for Glue. We haven't really seen anything around Gold Fury yet. No Pyromancers available.
Tower is under attack.
And so where these teams are starting to apply this pressure. I'm kind of curious, do you think some of this early pressure, and maybe more specifically mid-game pressure for Team Name, but with 5Ms is going to like enhance? Because I see two of them are building Book of Thoth, halfway done with stacks on one, not even on the other. It feels like they're going to find some power spikes. Admittedly, they're still lacking in the level department, but some of those power spikes are just around the corner for them, it feels like.
Well, for Hecate specifically, I think you're 100% right, where that damage is going to come online. You just need a little bit of time. And actually pause on that. Gold Fury pulled. Looks to be just about free. Nobody here except Benny Q, who's not really able to walk in. So a Gold Fury from Food Driver Globe on top of the value that they've gotten in the farming department. 3,000, almost 4,000 gold. But 100%, this is we have to farm for the later portions of the game. You're not picking Anubis support because of how good his early game is. It's that middle portion when you get those cooldowns online, you can spam. You have these two Book of Thoth gods. While Neath is, you know, even slightly later game because you opt for the double stacking, so you have to stack trans also, it's still going to be very good value later into the game. And something right now, they just don't have that fight back potential into these double assassins.
Yeah, it's been... I mean, it's hard. It's a hard fight to take to them to begin with. The start didn't really make it much easier for them.
No.
And really, it's the other side of it as well. Like, Food Driver Globe, it feels like can just start a fight at the drop of a hat. And have been starting fights at the drop of a hat, just whenever they decide to. Valo, global presence. We talk about it a little bit with Neath because of the ultimate, but, like, Valo's ability to just show up to a fight. We got this conversation a lot, and you had mentioned it, but in Smite 1... anytime you want, like, if Globe just decides to go in, which realistically that's a bad choice. If Happen decides to go in, Valo, as long as the ult is up, which it's going to be soon, he can just join. He just be there. It's just suddenly you've got a numbers advantage. You can take a 2v2 and you're going to win it because it's actually a 3v2. And yeah, you've maybe got a 3 to 2.5 because of the Neath ult, but ultimately, unless Cyclone's there, you're not going to be there too often. I do like the way, and this is always really interesting, 11.5 minutes in, Cyclone getting farm in the solo lane, Scream getting farm in the left lane, everybody else pretty much just grouping up in mid and trying to get things done where they can get things done. Looking for some pressure, forcing an ult out of Globe, but the rotations just to make sure that you can stay afloat. And so far, not getting punished for it, which might be the bigger deal. Uh-oh, I maybe spoke too soon.
I think you're 100% right. Cyclone going over to this lane. This is I am not safe in any other lane. I have to be in the other short lane against the god that can't just one-shot me. And so that's what they opt to do. And with that, team with 5Ms, I've got to shout out how they're rotating around the map. They are picking up farm where they can while being at this very, very large deficit. Cherry has kind of had to change how he wanted to play this game because of how bad solo lane is happening, or how bad dual lane is happening. Cherry's got to go over and deal with this Fed Susano. They're just trying to get farm on Cyclone. And Odin is a threat in terms of good luck killing him, but there's not one-shot threat like there is with the Susano. So really smart play by Team with 5Ms, where how they moved everyone around, put Hades over into the lane against the burst character so he can just live over there, put Cyclone into the safest lane where there's the least amount of threat. It is a smart play, but with how far behind and how disastrous that early game has been, they're going to need more than this just to come back into the game. They're going to have to take and fight on objectives. Gold Fury's coming up soon. Pyro's coming up soon. Will they be able to fight around it? The upside for Team with 5Ms is there's not a ton of objective burst and shred for Food Drive for Globe. Like, if they pull an objective, it's going to take a little while for it to be shredded. Yes, they have the confirm of Cuckoo. That is no doubt in my mind the best confirm in this game. But to get it to a spot where that the Cuckoo ult can actually kill it, it's going to have to be smart pulls and something we talked about last game, where is somebody zoning? Are you able to walk up? Who can steal it? It's not going to be that as much as, can we find a pick during this fight? Yes, we can't secure it, but they're going to be putting cooldowns onto the Gold Fury. Can we play around that? Maybe make them waste their cooldowns. So it's going to be a different chain.
Well, picked up, pulled back, Cherry in a bad spot. Nowhere to go with it. Tegbeer is going to pick up a second kill for himself this game. 2-level lead over the Neath, which again, Cyclone had kind of swapped out. They've been going back and forth. But what are you going to do? You had already said it. Happen, jumps in, stun, pick up, pull back, bring him to the Susano, and then you've kind of got everything you need in one area. And that has been the MO for Food Drive for Globe, and until something changes, I think they're gonna just kind of rinse and repeat as long as they can, as much as they can, until Team But with 5Ms is able to get something on the board. And so I'll ask this question. Who's the turnaround? I mean, where are we looking? Is it going to be PBM? Is this Anubis going to do something insane? Is it the Neath? Is it Hecate? Is it Bacchus? Like, who is it on Team Name But with 5Ms that is going to be able to start carving away some of the lead that Food Drive for Globe has picked up?
And I think it's going to be just a difficult kind of farm it out game. Look for a fight when we can. Because really, it's Benny. Benny's their only opportunity to really win these fights. He's got a lot of damage online with the Book, Chronos Pendant, and Soul Reaver. Gold Fury is pulled by Food Drive for Globe at about 3,000 health.
That's taken down low. Like you said, Cuckoo Khan is the best secure. What's it going to get used for? Actually goes wide of the Fury. Don't know if that was the main goal, but now the opening is there still. Mike low, killed off by Happen, and Engage is done. Food Drive go the distance for this fight and take down 3 like it's nothing. Not even a low health bar to name for it. And maybe risky, maybe not the way they planned for it to, but they get the Gold Fury nonetheless.
And 100%, as soon as Cuckoo ult's missed, that's probably the biggest disaster that Food Drive for Globe can have, because they just don't have that secure anymore. But they say, we don't need the Gold Fury. Let's just kill all of them. Mike is forced so far forward, they can just kill Mike and then take the Gold Fury after. And after that Gold Fury win, a Pyro win also for Food Drive for Globe. So now, this is a very, very difficult spot for Team with 5Ms to come back with, because on top of having massive gold and XP differentials, who on Team with 5Ms can actually walk up and contest objectives, can defend on Gold Furies, can defend fires, can defend towers even? They don't have that true tank. They don't even have the damage at this point to really contest with Food Drive for Globe, unless Benny's just getting a bunch of cooldowns off. This is it's not there yet, Gore, but we are minutes and a couple more big plays, not even big plays, medium-sized plays by Food Drive for Globe for them to actually have to misplay for Team But with 5Ms to actually come back. That is how big this discrepancy is in this game right now.
Yeah, you can really feel it. And I mean, just looking at the gold count, right? It's only 8,000, which in comparison to some other leads, that's not the end of the world. But like you said, the question of where that all falls, and then that's ignoring a little bit of the goal, or I should say the experience at the bottom. Mike is caught up. PBM, he's only 1 level down now. It's come at the cost of Scream and Cherry being down by 3. Benny Q, you had already mentioned, he's the only one who has this lead. He's the guy to look at, to maybe bring them back into something. But that something's got to be really, really big for Team Name But with 5Ms. Right now it's scattered kind of across the board. It was a teleport. I was trying to figure out, I was like, Karbik's just standing behind a rock, but no, he's going to the other side of the map. It's a pickup on to Cyclone Spin. You've got damage. The Odin's kind of overkill, but now you've got 4 people over here, so you got to get something done with it. Probably push down the towers, maybe just a retreat, teleport somewhere else from the base. But control, control, control. That is what Food Drive for Globe are doing. And inbound, much like you, I'm having trouble finding places where they don't have control.
And on top of these plays are pretty clean, they're just very smart plays where even if they misplay it, the downside is negligible. It is very small. There is very few chances that a big misplay can happen. If they 4-man rotate, kill Cyclone, take tower, there's really no opportunity for Team with 5Ms to do much outside of it. Fire Giant, not a threat. They can't push towers. They can't push mid lane. There's really no downside to what Food Drive for Globe is looking like. And they're just slowly moving this gold lead up, slowly moving this XP lead up. And while yes, Team with 5Ms is getting a little bit of gold and XP here and there, when you have this lead and you're pushing it and your lead is getting bigger, I'm getting really scared for what is going to happen to Cherry, what is going to happen to Mike, because again, no frontline when you are behind, or no true tank when you're behind, it is not easy to play the game. It is going to be very difficult for them to even walk through the jungle, because Happen can just pick up anyone at the drop of a hat, and they'll be wiped off the map.
And I already mentioned Globe has some of the best secure that's available. Yeah. So it's not like you can sneak an objective and feel confident in it either. So a lot of questions to be answered here. Maybe not the answer Team Name But with 5Ms would like them to be on the horizon. And poor Cherry, I mean, you're down 4 levels, you're locked into the cage, you have to use your Phantom Shell just to walk away because the level discrepancy here is big enough that you could very well die in the 1v1 from that pressure, let alone if you look at the jungle and actually see who was rolling up. So Fire Giant, in my mind, is presumably in the future for Food Drive for Globe. It's just whether or not, and maybe not whether or not, when they decide to go for it, that's going to make the big difference. And like you said, it does feel like it's going to be a slow burn for Team Namebo with 5Ms. Because where do you step? Where do you go? Where do you farm? You just fall back, you hope they push under your towers, and you get what you can. Pyromancer's up. It's a little easier to pick up than a Fire Giant. Tegveer's going to start that. They drop down their snakes to make sure they can tank for it. PBM's in the neighborhood, but the most he's going to do is slow things down a little bit in terms of the DPS and interrupt. Valo, I assume, is ulting over for this as well, and that's going to be Pyromancer on the way to Food Drive for Globe. And inbound, that gold lead gets a little further ahead. We're talking 3,500. And a Fire Giant started up. Zones started by Karmic. PBM walking around in the jungle. And if you're going to go for a play, I admire a Hail Mary, but this is the downside you were just highlighting. If you get locked down, it's game over for you. Mike taken off the board. The 1v2, they get Tegveer. That's actually big. That's a huge turnaround, but you got to be able to find a little bit more cherries. One hit, and the Odin Leap is going to help confirm one more. Valo isolated. 1v2. You've got Benny Q behind you, and he is the damage. But after a massive kill, what feels like a big turning point still falls flat in a 2v1 trade, still favoring Food Drive for Globe.
Maybe the lone upside of that is slows the game down a little bit. Cyclone gets a little bit more farm, gets that tower. The issue is that was nearly a perfect setup for overcommitting to Mike. Massive grouping by Food Drive for Globe, get hit by a bunch of ultimates and a bunch of damage, and they still traded only 2 for 1. Tegveer just gets popped. The Hades ult, Akate's damage, and Bacchus combo with damage, or with ultimate. Just so much damage. It's not something you can really defend against, but that is a bad fight by Food Drive for Globe. That is not a fight that it will happen again if they kind of play around that, split up a little bit more, worry a little bit less about killing the Anubis as fast as possible, because they kind of walked into his damage a little bit. They kind of walked into the enemy team what they wanted. They got a bunch of abilities forced onto the Anubis. If they just played a little bit slower, poke him down, play around dash taunt, there's no worry that they can really get blown up. But my slight worry with Food Drive for Globe's comp is what we saw with how little of a threat the gold or the Fire Giant actually is. They don't have burn. They did about 3,000 damage in 5 seconds. It is going to take them 30 seconds just to do the objective. Yes, they have got secure, but fire does do enough damage if you're sitting on it fast or for long enough. So that's the worry. You don't have the shred. You don't have the burn to kind of kill that Fire Giant. Yes, you have secure, but you have to be worried about how much damage fire is going to do when you're pulling it. And having these towers available, I'd almost rather prefer going for towers, going for picks, than pulling another Fire Giant.
Yeah, they definitely, I mean, they found so much success in that department. And unfortunately, it's been, I don't think I've gotten to say this year. You only hit level 20 once, or I should say, for Smite 2. And so those like, hey, you're still 4 levels ahead of your Karmic. But if you ignore Karmic, everyone's kind of catching up, right? That massive lead outside of gold isn't there as much. So you really do need to find something on the board to maybe open up a conversation. They're going to open up with a Fire Giant, though. Instead, small zone held by Karmic, drops the walls, and that's going to be a small degree of separation. And a full drop of the Fire Giant. Happen loses most of his health bar. Karmic as well, about half health, has to fall back. And without doing too much, Team Namebo with 5M stop a Fire Giant. And inbound, it's an interesting position to watch this game now, because it feels like, and I admire the respect, I think they deserve it, but Food Drive for Globe, despite 12,000 gold, are kind of letting Team Namebo with 5Ms maybe dictate things a little more than they should.
Yeah, and I think it has a little bit to do like even an overcommit with the Susanoo ult onto Cyclone there. I think it's a little bit to do with being in this position before. You know, Team with 5Ms have been in a position where they're down a lot of gold and they need to slow down the game to come back. Food Drive for Globe, there is pressure on this game. Again, you win, you make it through, you're into the stage 3 or stage 4, I think it is. There is pressure to make a play, and they're kind of doing the same thing over and over. We've now seen it 2 times. Go to the Fire Giant, hit it, try to see if somebody walks up. If they do, try to take the fight. Otherwise, sit on the Fire Giant and try to shred it. It's not working. You gotta try something else. Look for a pick. Play around Valo's Global. As you said earlier into the game, which it's not been used too much, you have this opportunity to make 4v5s into 5v5s or make 1v1s into 2v1s. Abuse the Athena, make it useful.
Ario's right here. Around the corner. Happen. Not going to find the stun. Cherry maybe caught out, actually. Techbeer goes in. Oh my god. Wow. Techbeer's damage is going to surprise me no matter what, but just chunks Cherry. And now the chase is on. Karmic confirms the kills. And you don't have to be an Athena ultimate to turn this into a 5v4. You did it the old-fashioned way. BBM's low teleport forward. You have to assume someone is looking for the wrap-in onto Mike to try and find the kill. Maybe looking for a higher priority target. Jump forward from the Odin. Damages their Globe. Loses his life, though. That's a massive trade. But you've lost, again, 2 for 1. Low health bars. And I'll admit, I'm kind of surprised, despite this deficit, Team Name But with 5Ms have been fighting pretty well into Food Drive for Globe, even if they're losing 2 for 1 in all of these trades.
100%, and it's weird to say that these fights are almost trades. It's not just outright wins for Food Drive for Globe, and it's with Karmic being unkillable. This Odin is jumping in whenever he wants. He is using the Bird Bomb for damage at 26 minutes into the game instead of using the shield to actually mitigate some of that damage when he's diving. That's how confident he is right now. But the longer this game goes on, the more abilities and the more items that characters get points into them and the more items that they buy, the more threatening it is to actually jump in like that. Globe has now died 2 times without really doing too much. I said earlier in P's and B's that I like Globe's Cuckoo. He feels very consistent on it. We've not really seen too many Cuckoo ultimates hit. We've not seen him really able to get too much damage off. If anything, he's been a little bit more like invisible than anyone else on his team. He's not doing damage and he's just dying, really. Is it how they're calling these fights that's just an issue? Pulling these objectives, they don't have the damage. Is Globe forced up too far? Either way, something's got to change. Globe's got to change something up, or the team as a whole needs to change something up.
Yeah, it feels like they amassed this mountainous lead and haven't... A dog that caught a car, right? They didn't know what to do with it now that they finally had it. And so chasing certain things, I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. Where is the big play? Because the longer this goes, the better it's going to get for Team Name But with 5Ms. I mean, the build, eventually you're going to catch up. You're going to be able to find that amount of gold. Levels, we are already seeing a lot of the experience gaps close. Or looking at Mike, Mike's 0-4 and 0, and he's got a level up now on Happen. And it's just because of the way they've been farming. Yeah, it honestly kind of blows my mind if I'm thinking about it. He started 0-2 and 0, just got bodied in lane, and this has been tenacious from Team Name But with 5Ms. Now, Fire Giant started for what feels like the 3rd, 4th, or 5th time by Food Drive for Globe. You've got Globe's ultimate. Are they going to commit? Are they going to lock it down? Halfway through the health bar, and they start to fall back. They're leaving this one alone. Team Name But with 5M steps forward, and the fight's gonna kick off. Happen grabs one, pulls a minute scream off the board immediately, and now looking for damage elsewhere. Cherry in a bad spot, pulled down, killed off Valo though. And again, we're following this storyline of 2-for-1 trades, where you're still losing more and more if you're Team Name But with 5Ms, but you're finding something in return every step of the way. It's just impressive to me. And Inbound, you can say whatever you want, but I am going to direct this initial question. Has Globe hit any of these ultimates? Have I just been missing some of the damage? I feel like I haven't seen them being as effective maybe as they could be.
I think you're right, Core. I don't think he's hit an ultimate yet. And it's not for lack of trying. We've seen a few ultimates thrown out, but he missed the Gold Fairy on the left side of things, so maybe it's a comms thing. Either way, 7,000 health left on this Fire Giant. Looks like maybe a defense another mounted by Team with 5Ms.
They're going to be able to step up. Globe has ult. If I'm looking to secure, I'm looking at it here. It goes a little early, but he still has it nonetheless. And now you've got to be able to fight forward and push into this. Good cage drop, locks down the Anubis, looking for the kill where you can find it. You just got to lock him down. It takes a while, but they get through that health bar. And it is one more kill, but more importantly, a fire giant finally taken. And now I think Food Drive for Globe can feel like they're in the lead once again.
And after 4 fire giant pulls, they do finally get it. And it almost seemed like more of a misplay on the side of Team with 5Ms than a positive play by Food Drive for Globe, because they had good poke onto Tegvir. They had him bullied out a little bit. He was about half health. And then it just seemed like a switch was flipped and they wanted to take the fight. So Scream goes in, Cherry goes in, and both of them end up dying. Yes, they trade, but it's still, if we just take that poke, make them pull Fire Giant again instead of taking this 5v5 fight, keep getting farm, that would have been a little bit more valuable than taking that awkward, disjointed fight. Because again, were they winning fights, Food Drive for Globe? Yes. Were they able to do much with them? No. I think if Team with 5Ms just takes it a little bit slower, takes the poke and resets and keeps playing it slower, it would have been a little bit more valuable for them. But even after that loss, Team with 5Ms is getting more farm. As you said before, you only hit 20 once, and I've never heard it said like that, but I love that because it just explains one of the few walls that you can hit in Smite when you can no longer push one of your leads. That middle game portion are the hardest fights to take when you're down 10,000, 15,000 gold and 3-4 levels each in XP. You're at this point now where Cherry's down a level and everyone else is even in XP.
Yeah, I mean, they've been able to catch up outside of, like you said, Cherry. And, I mean, you know, I kind of mentioned this. It doesn't happen too often, and we're not going to be there for a long time. I mean, you'd need another maybe 20 minutes of gameplay. But, like, the same thing that happens with experience, in a way, happens with gold, where, you eventually get to the point where the only thing you have in the lead are, like, wards, maybe some extra potions. And so I am watching, you know, Food Drive for Globe. Right now, they still have a very distinct advantage. Itemization all around is ahead. But they need to kind of step on the gas pedal, right? If they want to make sure that this all happens without things going too awry. Granted, as Team Name But with 5Ms has demonstrated, it's not as easy of a lockdown as it once was. And so now stepping forward comes with some dangers. Can you get to this last tier, or these last 2 tier 2s on right and left, and feel confident about it? Can you feel good trying to go for a Phoenix? And there's a lot in the siege that can go wrong. And even though I don't think of Team Name But with 5Ms, I guess with a bunch of mages, maybe you do have a really good defense. But it feels like with the amount of dive Food Drive for Globe have demonstrated, they should still be able to get aggressive, right? Or is this a position where they're kind of stalemated?
I mean, having no ADC does make these sieges very hard. Like, they got the Fire Giant. That was the first step. We don't have burn for fire. But now there's not really burn for these towers either. And there's also something to be said where if you're taking a bunch of fights and then you stop fighting for a little bit, in this case, Benny's not been around a ton of fights. Benny's nearly full build now. There's a point where you forget almost how much damage this full build mage will do. If Benny hits one combo, one ultimate, he can kill someone.
Yeah, it is a massive amount of danger. And the good thing about, and I would say we could see that actually should be Globe's death. I was going to highlight that you could grab multiple people, but you split them up nonetheless. And speaking of split up, Karmic by themselves, surrounded by 2, forced to leap away. Scream will get the knockup. That's actually massive. The stun should follow through. Double kill for the Hecate. And now Valo comes in a little bit late. Knockup's going to be good. Body blocks. The damage is there. Holy triple for Benny. I mean, that's exactly what you need, exactly when you need it.
And what a disaster for Food Drive for Globe. Everything that you didn't want to happen happens. You get your Cuckoo caught out by Hecate. Your Athena ults in to try to get a defense, but the teammate you're ulting to dies by the enemy's hand before you land. You land, you're also picked. You have 20 seconds on Globe's health, on Globe's leg. You have 30 on Karmic. There is a possibility where one more pick could actually seal this game. We have wave here, Gore. This is a really tough spot for Food Drive for Globe.
You have to figure out how you're going to hold on here. Happen jumps in, goes to the back, and is pulling him away. A good spot to be, picks one up. and immediately has some damage. You need to find a little more on the stream if you want to kill. And they are able to get it. Techfear with a good dive goes in, finds another, looking for a third taken down, but what a good set of plays Cherry's Low happen for the chase. And just like that, that push gets stopped in its tracks.
What just happened? Get it? What just happened? Just happened, Gore.
I appreciate it.
That is an insane play by him. He jumps in, pulls the beads, and on top of that, he ults right away to gain distance with that CC immunity. Once the beads run off, he's willing to re-engage. He grabs Scream then, pulls Scream under tower, blinks with Scream under tower. Techfear then has this massive opportunity to get in. What an overall insane play by these two over in the two duo laners, Happen and Techfear. Phenomenal defense mounted there. They keep their Phoenix alive, and now they have a 4v2 on this Fire Giant. But the worry is really no damage. But it seems like Team of 5Ms is just fine giving up the Fire Giant because they saw what happened last time.
Yeah, up, down. Yeah, DPS. For some reason, my brain said play-by-play this.
All on it.
They're killing the Fire Giant, guys. It's as classic as it can possibly get. And they're going to do it no problem, like you said. Team name but with 5Ms recognize that their strengths might not lie in the FG pit and instead could lie elsewhere, right? Sit back here, go and defend around your Phoenixes. Tier 2 on right, probably not worth sacrificing your life for. Tier 2 on left, already gone. And so a better position for Food Drive for Globe in terms of engage. But maybe, and just because, like you said, BinnyQ in the right circumstances, especially when his ult is up, might be a better spot for team name, but with 5Ms, because they know Food Drive for Globe have to step up to a Phoenix in order to really get the ball rolling here.
And after what we saw from the last siege from Food Drive, I want to see them change what they did. Last time it was 4 in left, 1 in middle. I want this Athena away. There is a specific threat that she has that nobody on the enemy team can match. Well, you talked about it earlier. Can Athena get matched by anyone? Kind of by Neath, but in reality, it's just an ultimate comparatively to the entire kit of the Athena. There's a threat that she has. She has ranged autos with her passive. There should be no grouping by Valo with the team. If they find a massive opportunity, Happen gets a nice blink, can go in, then you can ult in. But there's no reason for Karmic, your Omega tank, your super fed character that hasn't been able to be dealt with, is split off by himself. Their splits just don't make sense. And I don't know if it's just they've not been in this spot before, because it's something we've talked about, where this is a very good team, but they're not used to the pressure. It's just, what are we doing here?
Well, right now, trying to get aggressive, and they find Scream, no problem. Happens incredibly deep right now, but zoning too. I mean, you might lose your life if you're Happen, which so far has not great. Ultimate coming in from Cherry to lock it down, but Happen, I mean, the shells, the shielding, it's everything you need to stay alive, and instead 3 are down, and BinnyQ, maybe the biggest of them all. Left side Phoenix gets taken with it. 2v5, but those 5, they are not the healthiest 5. Taunt comes in the first. Mike has been taken down. It has been a long 38-minute game, but finally, Food Drive for Globe are able to crest that hill and take game number 1.
And the biggest thing there is Karmic just being grouped with the team. Even outside of the Athena, I thought it would be a little bit better if she split. The biggest thing is your unkillable Odin should not be split out by himself. As soon as he groups up, nobody's killing him. Happen's allowed to dive 2 people. They can't really threaten him either. And you just kill Scream when he overcommits trying to find that engaged. Very good end to the game with a very sloppy mid-game, bashing their head against the wall, trying to get something to work. The same thing that hasn't worked like 4 times. If they can grow from this, though, this is a very good thing for Food Drive for Globe, because if they can just fix the issues with the Susano ADC, that early game was phenomenal. There was nothing that Team with 5Ms could do against it. And if they can just build on top of that, this is going to be a scary team going into Vegas, if they make it to Vegas.
A rare instance where getting to 10,000 gold wasn't the hard part. They got that part pretty easy. It was the win afterward that they struggled with. We'll see, like you said, if they've learned anything. Same thing goes for the other side. Team name with 5Ms, backs against the wall in this set. Again, they're doing fine set-wise, or I should say Swiss-wise. The question is whether or not you can make it to playoffs here. The only way to find out is to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
And then I said, that's not Bacchus, that's Bilson's mother. That one always makes me laugh. But enough about my weekend. Hey, Gormizer, what's new with you?
Just picked up my SMITE 2 Founders Edition.
Very nice.
Purchased it on my preferred gaming platform just yesterday.
Nice skin.
It's Cacodemon Ymir. It comes with all SMITE 2 gods. Forever.
That's very cool, Gormizer, but that's nothing. Look at this. Night Stalker Neath and Ascension passes for 11 Alpha Launch gods. What do you think?
Geez, that is really super. How'd a nitwit like you get so tasteful?
Can't believe that Dandy prefers Chelly's Founders Edition to mine.
Very nice. Impressive. Let's see JMax Founder Edition.
Look at that avatar, badge, and title. The tasteful thickness of Tier 5 Fallen Zeusia. Oh my god, it even comes with Ascension passes for all 23 Alpha gods.
Don't be like this psycho and upgrade your Founders Edition, so you don't miss out on Night Stalker Neath, Tier 5 Fallen Zeus, and Ascension passes for the first 23 gods. Upgrade today.
Not even sure where I want to go with that because I feel like I did such a wonderful job. I say I did a wonderful job explaining it. Tristan did a wonderful job explaining it at the end. You just go to smite2.com, get your Founders Edition, get the upgrades while you can. If you go in right now, actually, first and foremost, if you're in chat, you can use !access, click on the link, use code SMITE2esports. You can get access to the game free. Intuit, permanent, no qualifications on it. You just get in to play SMITE 2 Alpha. But if you buy the Founders Edition, base level, not only do you get the game access, which you could, again, get for free, but you also get all of the SMITE 2 gods forever, which for $30 is insane in terms of quality. Already, by the time, the game launches and is free to play and things like that, you're gonna be getting it's less than $1 per god, which is so crazy in terms of value. Founders, avatar, badge title, Cacodemon Ymir. You start to add other things. You go up a tier. You get the cross-gen Night Stalker Neath skin, as well as Ascension passes added into it. And then, of course, the tier 5 skin, as well as even more Ascension passes if you go up to the next tier. So you want to make sure that you are getting your Founders Edition to make sure you get all of the perks, the skins, Ascension passes. I can't understate how valuable Ascension passes are and how helpful they are. But again, if, for some reason, maybe you just want to try the game out a little bit, before you drop the money on the Founders Edition, then make sure you use code !access, click the link, use code SMITE2esports in chat, or if not in chat, you can put that wherever you're supposed to put that. And then make sure that you get into the game while you can. And again, upgrade to your Founders Edition when you have the opportunity. But for now, it's Gore, it's inbound. And it is a long game one that we go through again. And it is Food Driver Globe in the lead for a majority of it. Until finally, at the very end, they are able to find their way into the base. And it just feels like it is a whole lot that goes right for them at the very end. A whole lot that doesn't go right for them, kind of in the middle and kind of early late game, I shall say.
And there's a lot of places I could go with a game like this because there was so many positives. There were so many positives for the beginning portion of the game into the earlier middle of the game portion of the game. But that mid game just leaves like a sour taste in my mouth. It's something where if they can grow from this moment, this could be something we look back at like, remember when they struggled to do objectives? Remember when they struggled to put teams away? Especially because I don't want to take it away from them because this is still a phenomenal team. Even down 10,000 gold, there's a lot of good macro plays by Team Name, but with 5Ms. But there was just nothing they could really do to come back into this game unless Food Drive let them. And there was a little portion that kind of allowed them to. But once they finally figured out what they needed to do, a slight misstep by Team Name with 5Ms, they punished them. And what I'm seeing is no front line when you're down 10,000, 15,000 gold means they're going to die a lot. And PBM and Cherry did that a lot. 15 deaths towards both of them. when you are behind that much, somebody has to walk into the jungle. Somebody has to walk up the lane to farm. A lot of the times it was Cherry kind of being dangled out there like a snack, and Tegveer bit on it a bunch of times, killed him a bunch of times. But there was really good play by Team Name with 5Ms to slow that game down, to almost come back. I mean, one massive fight on that Phoenix almost brings them back. Benny does a lot of damage. They're weirdly split. If it wasn't for Happen and Tegveer on that 2v4 defense on Phoenix, we could have been talking about Phoenix being down and maybe Fire Giant being pressured by Team with 5M. So overall, really good fights when they needed them, but that middle portion was still strange.
Yeah, I would have been happy or nicer maybe for them to need them a little sooner, a little faster, try to get them under their belts. We'll see how it shakes out. Last picks and bans confused me pretty thoroughly. This time I feel like we're going in with a little bit more knowledge, only because we saw game one. Things like Anubis support are on the table, apparently, and that's something that we might see. Food Drive for Globe will be first pick once again. We also didn't see Emoja, which absolutely blew me away. Fenrir, Baron, Yamoja, Jingwei, Loki was the ban last time as well. And so a lot of bans, well, a lot of things to ban, only one ban to use, means that you get to this point where now Food Drive for Globe are going to have something open. Baron gets banned one more time. Maybe they just run it back. I mean, you had a really successful early game like you had mentioned.
Yeah, and I think Food Drive for Globe shouldn't change too much. I think it's on Team Name with 5Ms to make a change. I think they tried this Anubis. There was a Yamoja available, as you stated. There needs to be, I think, more emphasis on a winning lane for Team with 5Ms. Your dual lane Anubis Neath is not beating a double assassin lane. Hades is not beating an Odin in lane. And then mid lane is just way too hard to win when you're playing both mages. That, wow, okay. Lost my train of thought because an Athena was just first pick score, which is...
that's crazy.
That is not the god I think of as a first pickable god. There was a lot of gods even in last game that I think they could go back to. I loved the Odin. The Fenrir was awesome. They think there's more value in first picking their Athena and giving Fenrir to Team above with 5Ms, and maybe giving them like an Odin or the Hecate again, or all these sorts of gods that they pick Athena first.
We could visit. Must it be the mortal one?
And to leave open, I don't know, man. It's just
nonetheless.
There's so many things. I feel like my brain broke a little bit. Like something just snapped somewhere inside me that it's making it hard to like think clearly. Athena was good. Valo played well, and I will go back and highlight the positives, right? Much like you said, like, you've got someone who can show up anywhere at any time for a fight because you're global.
Do not underestimate me.
Yamoja, Fenrir, Jingwei, Hecate, like all these gods are still available. And Athena's someone who we haven't been seeing at all. So maybe Food Drive for Globe are ahead of the curve. I mean, they just won with it. And admittedly, the two that they trade out, look, Fenrir, Hecate, that's a really strong top two to pick up if you're team but with 5Ms. But Yamoja Odin is not a bad top three to round things out for Food Drive for Globe. So I'm having trouble even being upset. Maybe even upset's not the right word. It was just surprised.
And agreed, the Athena was very surprising. But as you said, and I agree with it wholeheartedly, Yamoja Odin to round this out is a really good top three for Food Drive for Globe. It allows them to kind of decide, do we want to go towards the Susano again? Is this something we want to dive? Do we want to drive the Hecate, the Fenrir, the Bacchus, the Neath? Or do we want to try to just play a normal comp, normal with Athena jungle, but like Jingwei ADC here, and you can pick the Cuckoo mid and play a more front to back style comp after playing that dive comp, because Team with 5Ms is kind of going back to a more standard composition. They're playing the Kate Neath again, but Bacchus Fenrir makes a lot more sense than Anubis support and Bacchus jungle. But I mean, they could still put the Bacchus in jungle again.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me. It's something where you see something funky, it loses, switch up one thing and you can play that funky thing again. Food Drive for Globe though, opting for essentially the same style comp. I am a little bit worried about how this dual lane is going to work with Yamoja Susano, because less threat in that 2v2. Fenrir has a lot of damage, a lot of CC. Yamoja doesn't really have that too much, especially super early. And then Hades last picked by Team with 5Ms kind of like weirdly similar comps to last game, but there are like glaring differences, and the comps are going to change up a lot because of that, how they're played.
Well, we do get to see some returning faces, right? And I guess feature actually, realistically, maybe more than we see not. The Odin, the Kukulkan, the Susano, the Athena, all there for Food Drive for Globe. Yamoja's the new one, and admittedly, and this is, I will admit, personal bias, I prefer playing Athena in support than I prefer playing Fenrir. We'll see how Happen handles it and how well it plays up and matches together. Assuming everything goes back to where it was. But I'm kind of on your boat. Still putting some question marks as to whether or not we'll see Bacchus as like a support or if Scream's going to run it back. But I think I like even just the change of having the Fenrir a little bit more. Having that little bit of extra damage, the Neath, the Hades, like it feels like a good lineup. We'll see if it's what Team Name but with 5Ms have in store and are necessary, needed in order to win this game, push us to 3, get themselves in the spot to go to playoffs directly this week. Or Food Drive for Globe has what they need as we jump into game 2. They're roaming around 5-man, and you can see and spot out a couple people in mid. But I don't think anything's going to result out of it. And it will be Hades support, which was not on my list of things I said.
Something had to be funky. They couldn't run a more normalized comp. Something had to be a little in the air, and it's the Hades. But I do think there is more potential with Hades support than Anubis support because of that safety in the dash. Also, the change in Smite 2, one of his +1 changes was he can also dash again if he wants to in his ultimate. So he has potentially double dashes comparatively to the Anubis, who has 0 dashes and 2 dashes greater than 0 dashes. A little bit more safety in that lane. Also a little bit more engage everywhere for Team Boat with 5Ms. They've now got Scream on the Fenrir. Bacchus back in the soul lane, which I think is his best role currently. So outside of this Hades, everything about Team with 5Ms, I like their comp just so much more than last game. But again, we saw what Food Drive for Globe did last game with this nearly identical comp. Karmic cannot Gore be the same 4 or 5 levels up as he was last game, because they just didn't have the damage to deal with him. They need something over there to slow him down, whether it is not lane swapping because dual lane's getting destroyed or whatever it is. You've got to slow Karmic down at least a little bit.
You know, I will say, especially because Karmic was a problem, the other thing that was a really big issue early in the game was having Happen on that Fenrir, right? Like, having Happen jump in, have the ults, like, all of that is what shut PBM down so hard. And while I think I love the Yamoja a lot more if we get to another 20-minute game, 30-minute game, I do think that's going to change this early bit for a pretty significant function, right? You just don't have the same pull in and aggression that you would have had on the Fenrir, and instead we actually even see Scream rotating in, focusing on this left-hand side for the buffs and the experience more than anything, but being able to show up and stall out any pressure that could have been, which is going to slow Tegveer down a little bit. That feels like it has to be, while maybe a small victory, it's a victory nonetheless.
Yeah, and again, the only time I've really seen the Susano is paired with that Fenrir. It's a completely different duo lane playing Fenrir versus playing Yamoja. Yamoja's still very strong 2v2, but it's damage strong. It's battle of attrition strong. I'm never out of mana. I can heal my teammate with passive health regeneration from my autos. I have got good damage and good CC. Not necessarily great, but good. They don't really have that same chase potential, that same aggressiveness. And it's weird because it's not like Yamoja is that much worse in the 2v2, but it's just there's less threat with a Yamoja than there is with a Fenrir, just point blank. But there's a different threat with Yamoja. There's more sustain for Tegveer. He can look for different trades. There's no all-in potential. That's the similarities, but there's trade potential, which it changes how the lane works. But so far already, 0 kills in dual lane. We had a double kill by like a minute and a half last game.
Yeah, and I feel like, well, first off, Scream seems to have been wanting to change that. I feel like I've looked up and seen this Fenrir on the minimap right outside Duo 3 or 4 times already, and it's only been 2 to 3 minutes, so really it's been on the minute every single time he's been kind of shifting over. But it is, you know, that slowdown, not having the double assassin to dive in, really makes a big difference and kind of changes a whole lot for you. So quick pause comes through. It does make me interested to see where that first blood's going to be and how it changes things. Because like we had said it, the getting to like 10,000 gold part was pretty easy last game because they had such a lead. It was everything after that. Now you've got the comp, I think, the change for everything after that, but can you get to the same spot?
And I mean, so far, I think there's been a genuine effort towards this duo lane that, I mean, you mentioned Scream's playing to the side of the map. There is an effort to make sure they don't fall behind. There is something where Cyclone we can't have as far behind. We can't have him forced over to solo lane. Let's have Scream play to the side of the map. Scream shows up for that, the spawn of the side camp in duo lane. That's a camp that is usually just whichever duo lane has pressure is going to be getting, but Scream wants to make sure that Cyclone's getting that red, which was what it spawned as. He wants to make sure that they're in a livable spot. And you saw when it got to that mid-game portion, how well Team with 5M still team fights. If the game's even close, the Susano damage is completely different than Cyclone's damage. It's more engage, less poke. More all-in, more CC, but less just outright damage. And it's less safe damage. If Cyclone can just stay even, he doesn't even have to be ahead. There is a completely different mid-game that we could be talking about this time.
Yeah, it does change. I mean, the tone drastically shifts just based on where First Blood goes. And admittedly, just the first few minutes being so different really does make me wonder and kind of keep my eyes on Tegvir specifically. Can he find the pull in? And there's a little bit of damage, but you know, Cyclone's Neath, there's not a lot of chase down. At least that you're diving in super early using your ult, and so maybe eyes turn to Carmack. I actually love that the camera shifted right there because that's perfect. It just all lines up to like this guy, you know, who was up 4 or 5 levels last game, being on par. You don't really have the same wherewithal for Valo. Like there's not as much wiggle room for the Athena to get as aggressive because you don't have the duo lead that you had last game. And so it puts different pressures in different places, and it does get to answer a fun question of like, how did Food Drive for Globe respond to the changes? But more importantly, what did Team Name But With 5Ms do with the change? I mean, outside of Scream showing up to duo once every minute, literally, to see if he can get something done, there's going to be some backs here. So outside of maybe stealing some farm, nothing for the jungler just yet, but I can't fault him for trying.
And Scream has almost completely thrown his game just to make sure duo lane is getting squashed. He is down an entire level to Valo. Valo's not really made an effort to gank at all. He's just farmed. He's just tried to hit 5. He's tried to get to this Chronos Pendant as fast as possible. Valo's finished his first item. Scream just backed and couldn't afford his first full item. So there's a massive, massive lead in the jungle for Valo. And now, if Scream wants to make a play in a side lane, no longer is it just an advantageous fight for him. There is an Athena that's going to be landing in, giving a shield and having a lot of damage. I think it was like the same type of thing that Food Drive for Globe tried to do where it's duo pressure, but it's like there's so much pressure over there with just 2 characters that Scream is forced over there. There's pressure to just do this Gold Fury because of how long they were stuck in dual lane trying to live that 2v2. Free Gold Fury, no deaths, Valo's up a level. This is not a massive lead through kills. This is just a massive lead because of the pressure and the scariness that Tegvir Susano puts on the enemy team.
And what this could lead to, and we actually saw this a little bit in game 3 of set 2 today in EMEA. And I talked to you about it where like spectator wise, and this is TBD for this game, there wasn't a whole lot going on in like the kill department. So like the flashy plays weren't there. Maybe that would change. No, Tegvir, unfortunately, unable to continue that chase. But I did say that, like, macro-wise and like, player-wise, right, there's a lot more going into that. And that's kind of what I feel like here. This gold, it's only 600 gold, but it makes a big difference. Valo now rotating in. You get the ult from PBM. You've got damage on the Cyclone spin, and you've got first blood exactly where you need it. And Tegvir picking it up is even more dangerous for Team Name But With 5Ms.
Absolute cinema right there by Food Drive for Globe. Perfectly waiting for Cyclone's backflip. Backflips into the Yemoja 3. The Susano ult is right there after. Very, very strong play. And again, this is not because of who they're killing. They're not getting a ton of kills and pushing their lead. it is just very smart plays, smart ganks, smart ideas about what is going to be happening in this game. And it's just something I like gushing over, where this team has put in so much effort outside of the game with the scrims, with the tournaments, that it's really showing. The early game has been phenomenal. Their late game is phenomenal. Again, I hate, you know, talking about it a lot because there's so many positives with this team. But if that middle portion of the game goes a little bit cleaner, we're just gushing over this team going into this game. But we're a little apprehensive because of just how sloppy that portion was. But I just want to state to make sure it's known. This team's early game is so good.
And so far, like you said, they've been playing it well, and you get to see it mass up into 1,000 gold, which 7.5 minutes in, yeah, maybe it's not the end of the world, but when you're killing buffs in the jungle pretty easily, when you're getting war horns on your side and totems on your side, you're getting first blood, you have pressure, gold fury, like all of this, while it hasn't really like amassed too much, it kind of goes to show, like you said, Food Drive for Globe's control over this early game. And where their breakout potential is going to be. Late game, they don't necessarily have the ranged carry like Cyclone Spin's going to have. But I don't know that Tegveer cares the way that I've seen Tegveer play Susano. Might even go for this knowing it's a 1v2. Dangerous position, you have Yemoja coming over. And so you will have some healing soon, and you have a health chalice in your pocket no matter what. But it's fun to watch what Food Drive for Globe are going to do with the pressure they have and what they've exuded onto the map.
And then the opposite side of thing with teams with 5 Ms, there's not been too much over in solo lane. It's been a lot of just farming, but it feels better having a Bacchus over in solo lane than it does with that Hades, because it's just, Bacchus is unkillable because of just how safe his clear is and just how threatening he also is, where if you misplay, he has threat onto you. Hades doesn't really feel that same way, where free first item, he's a threat. It's mostly just, he farms well, he clears okay. Bacchus has that threat where if you misplay just a little bit, he can kill you. And that goes for even the god like Odin, who is, I mean, considered probably the best solo laner, if not one of the best gods in the game. There is a different level to what this team with 5 Ms is going to do this game. Scream sitting on the side of the map. If Karmic jumps here, there is threat onto his life. But, I mean, one of the few things about Karmic is he has become a very smart player, where it makes sense just to jump there and clear. It makes a whole lot of sense. Use my ability, clear here, but he's just got a feeling that something is going to go bad if he does.
What I admittedly will say, I feel bad for Scream, because I feel like Scream has done a lot to try and set up a gank.
Yeah.
And just the last little, you know, push that it needs to come to fruition hasn't happened in any of the spots that he's tried, which is just an unfortunate scenario, right? Where it's like you said, if Karmic jumps, then it's the go time. Scream goes in. Karmic doesn't jump. He just kind of wanders around, has that sixth sense that something's going wrong. Bacchus with a belly flop could do so much to stop you, but until that's gone, it doesn't really matter. Oh, okay, I'll go to the duo lane. Your middle tower, right, they've got a Yemoja, and they're healing, and also there's Susano, and you've got Riptide. Like, you've got disengage upon disengage. There's just not a really good spot, maybe outside of Globe. And we've talked about Kukulkan, who can just sit under the tower and farm. Like, it just kind of feels like, despite getting the Fenrir and having one of the best junglers in the game, there's nowhere to go and do anything with it.
And that's not even including if he does try to make a play in a side lane. Valo has that ultimate to rotate over instantly. There is a reason you play Fenrir. It's to look for ganks, and it's to look for picks with your ultimate. The Athena kind of does the same thing in terms of looking for picks, but she also stops your team from getting picks because of the ultimate, the shield. Cuckoo gets his beads forced. There's a little worry here now, but we're 11 minutes into this game, Gore. That is the first play that Scream has been able to make. Not looking for a play, he's looked for plenty, but that is the first time he actually made a play, and all it was pulling Globe's beads. That is the top of what he could have do, and it's just pulling a relic.
Speaking of pulling, Gold Fury pulled. Good drive for Globe, have control over it. Again, watch Globe for the ultimate and where the damage is going to come from. thrown a little early, gets a lot of damage onto PBM, and it results in a second kill of the game. Now they pick it back up, 4v5. You've got the rotation, you've got Valo, you've got everybody, but do you have the secure? The answer is yes. Now you need the disengage. Fenrir goes in, but a Scream biting off more than he can chew. Yeah, you get the kill onto Karmic. You finally have a little bit. Shell comes out, healing, shielding, everything you need is there, and the backup to make sure that the kill is available online. And 3-1 Food Drive for Globe get themselves the Fury, get a couple kills, and for everyone but Karmic, they get out with their lives.
And Gore, that is the exact reason that we see Emoja picked. Scream hit a 3-man stun into a Brutalize, and instead of getting a double kill or getting even just one kill there, he dies because of the shield, the heal from the Emoja. And at this point, Happen is massive. He is level 11. He's the same level as everyone on the enemy team except Benny and Sherry, who are the two solo laners, who they should be farmed the most. Happen has played 2 great games of Smite, and this is 2 gods that are on completely different sides of what you need to do. One is uber aggressive, look for plays, look for picks, do damage. The other is peel, survive, keep my team alive, set up for them. And he's playing both of these styles incredibly well. And something that I think is overlooked is how hard it is to look good on a support in different situations. Like playing support, playing 2 aggressive games, it's very easy. I do the same thing. I run it down. Playing an aggressive game into a defensive game, it's impressive how well he's played.
Speaking of, I want to say impressive, Scream does force out beads. That's a pretty big play with the taunt. Oh my god, the damage! No, you need one more, just a little bit, Karmic. Somebody from around the corner, he jumps in. Yes, he has it. Valo, though, loses his life. He goes too far forward. He chased for the kill, worried about getting it, and the collapse from Team Name, but with 5M means it's a 1-for-1 jungle trade. But I gotta admire it. It really did feel like Valo was just going to maybe even turn that around on the Scream, get the kill. Good from Team Name, but with 5Ms to at least pick something up out of it.
Yeah, that polyburst combined with the tower damage, Scream was not ready for that. He was playing it on the knife's edge, trying to walk forward. He knew the Neathal was coming. He didn't expect to get taunted that long. He didn't expect to take that much damage, and he is forced to actually blink out. But I think this is part of the reason that you actually see this Athena. Polly makes it so she's just a really good 1v1 character. If she hits that 3, auto, taunt, auto, doesn't even have to use her dash. She has the burst to kill you. And this is before she even gets more items online. Combining that with what he's able to do with the ultimate, it makes sense why they first picked this character. Again, it's not something I expected. You didn't expect it either. It was a very surprising pick. But Valo has played a good game of Athena after a great game of Athena game 1. If he can just look for maybe a few more plays with this dash taunt, look for relics. Like, there's not been enough pressure on Benny, I think. No beads, does have that shell. A dash taunt, there is potential to just blow up Benny with Globe's ultimate. That's the only issue I've really had with Valo, is he's more farm oriented and he's not really looking for any ganks, and I think he should.
A guardian must do what's
It's the question of, well, actually, maybe not even the question of when, where. Because when usually, at least for an Athena, kind of lines up with where the ult is available. Comes over, shows up, gets a kill, Cyclone shut down, and now you've got Scream that brutalized. Yeah, goes back in. I think appropriately falls back. I like that he's chasing it down. Yeah, you've got teamwork, teammates coming in, damages there. Tegveer low and finally shut down. A good kill for Team Name, but with 5Ms. And now, dancing under the tier 1 tower, they're getting the job done. They still have more damage to follow. Happen seems to be the last one standing, and it will be Benny Q with the fadeaway shot. They tie things up 5-5, but the implications are a lot heavier than that.
And really weird overcommit, I think, by team with 5Ms. They 5-manned over there. They're giving up this tier 1 tower and left. And it was almost like a strange play by Food Drive for Globe, where it looked like they were 5-manning, but then Karmic is going left. Karmic pushes down tower. Globe doesn't rotate. Team with 5Ms knew Karmic wasn't coming. They saw him on wave. They knew Globe wasn't coming. They were able to dive that tower as long as they wanted, because they have the tankiness and they have the damage to kill. if Food Drive for Globe is opting to give that up, they can't overcommit for that kill on the Cyclone in the right, or they need somebody that's willing to trade and the other two end up getting out. Because now, as you said, a little bit of a swing by Team with 5Ms slows down Food Drive with Globe's lead. Even though Cyclone did die, Scream is kind of in a good spot again. Benny's in a good spot again. We've seen how Benny's able to play this Hecate late game. The longer this game goes on, the more potential that one fight can kind of just win it. We're not close to that spot yet. We barely got to it last game. But it is still a Food Drive for Globe had this nice lead. They've not pushed it well enough. And Team with 5Ms kind of just punched back right there.
And they put themselves, again, still down, deficit in gold. But team fight, and we had kind of seen this already, it's there. And when you have the promise of the fight, the gold can follow pretty quickly after, especially if they can find some presence around, like a Gold Fury, Pyromancer, Fire Giant. Those things all lining up several times in a row. And I want to say 3,000 gold. I feel like a few weeks ago, 3,000 gold felt a lot more oppressive. Maybe it was just the typical gaps we would see in between some of the teams. But this 3,000 gold for Food Drive for Globe, while it's nice, it doesn't feel as strong as I once felt like it was. And so I definitely need to see a little more from them. I don't know if I'm too worried about the moments right now, though, Inbound. I feel like there's a lot that, until we see a large grouping, until we see a fight break out, I think Food Drive for Globe are fine just doing what they've been doing.
Yeah, and with Gold Fury being alive, 3-manned on it right now. Team with 5M's not too sure, but they are worried about it. Checking it now, it's about 2,000 health. They're going to be 50-50. Cherry secures it.
I mean, just walks in, takes it away, now has the chase down. Yeah, go for more of a fight. Why not? Because you're the team that's winning this right now. You've got the damage. Oh, and you've got the control. What a pickup from Cherry. And now you might be able to find a little bit more Karmic. Yeah, a little late to the disengage party. Walls dropped over the wall, but the chase is a little too strong here. And that is a second kill plus the Fury going the other way. I mean, there's a lot of things I want to say, but team name, but with 5Ms, they get the job done. And now I love this. Run straight for the FG pit.
Still a slight worry here if you're on the side of team with 5Ms. You don't have an actual auto attack consistent damage for this objective either. Scream's probably your most damage. It's going to be a slow burn here, and Globe has that ultimate available. Can he get in and get the steal?
He's setting up for it. Trying to walk forward. Fire Giant's not going too fast either, so it's kind of this awkward spot. But now you've got Timber. You've got actually a lot more showing up to the party. Globe with a launch a little too soon. Doesn't find the steal. Doesn't have the damage. Cyclone gets the fire. Globe goes down. Happen follows right after. And that is about as disastrous as you could have asked if you were a Food Drive for Globe team, but with 5Ms. I mean, what is this? This is like 6, 7, 8 unanswered kills, it feels like at this point. Objectives going their way. What a turnaround here, 19 minutes in.
And they were a lot more confident with that one Fire Giant than all the Fire Giants last game that Food Drive for Globe had. They played it exactly how they needed to. Get it low, but not in Cuckoo ult range. Stop DPSing if Cuckoo gets too far forward. Commit to the Cuckoo. Karmic, a little bit of a threat here. Gets Cuckoo ulted, or gets Fender ulted. Nice peel, though.
Karmic, well, I was going to say it's just fine, but Cherry, Vinny Q combined and make sure that's not happening. Valo can't even get into the air. Oh, no. Poor Valo killed before you can even do anything. Tier 2 getting knocked on. Team name, but with 5Ms showing exactly why they are up in the 2-0 portion of Swiss as well. Things did not go well in the early game, but man, their team fight, they have coalesced, they have Voltroned together into something that is just so difficult to take down. 4,000 gold in the lead after being, 3,000 behind, a 7,000 gold swing. Knocking on the door of the Phoenix, but I think appropriately fall back here, get a small reset, and they can reassess and then re-jump into the fights.
After a massive gold swing like that, Scream just backed bought an entire item. I'd assume everyone else on Team But with 5Ms also has a full item to buy. Pyro's up, Naga's up, a lot of farm on the map available. And now you're in a spot where you have this very big lead. You just won this Fire Giant fight. You You have not broken the base yet. You haven't killed the Phoenix. You still have to break the base. But having that ranged potential, that ranged auto attack of Neath, and that's not even including the support Hades, who also gives you that little extra range. It's a little bit more, less threatening damage when you look to auto attack it. It's going to be a lot easier to siege with this comp than it would be with Food Drive for Globe's comp, because you just have those extra ranged autos. Now, how do they opt to play this? Are they going to 5v5? There is still the worry of Athena dash taunt. Yamoja ult is still a big issue. Are you going to be able to dive? Globe is a safe enough clear where he doesn't have to put himself out of position to clear. And at the end of the day, Food Drive for Globe still wants to dive your comp. If you are walking into Phoenix, there is potential for you to get dove. So Cyclone has to be very careful with how he's positioning. But at the end of the day, Cyclone is not nearly the most important character on the team for Team Butt with 5Ms. He is mostly a support Neath at this point. He's level 17. He's actually behind PBM in terms of XP and even in terms of items. So Cyclone's really not the biggest worry. Right now, Benny's level 20 with 4 items and his starter done. He's going to be doing a lot of damage. And if you do look to dive into the enemy's comp, you have to be worried about where this Hecate is. You have to be worried about where this damage is coming from. And you also have to be worried about this Fenrir ultimate. And that's not even including the last part of the entire puzzle is Cherry is so tanky right now and has so much survivability with his items. If he's diving in and he's tanking Phoenixes, are you going to be able to kill him even? You don't have consistent damage. You have burst with the Susano, but that's just about it. So what is going to be the answer to how Team with 5 names plays this?
We're stepping forward. We knock down towers in mid and in left. I don't think that was ever their concern. I think going for the Phoenix has been their main target, but yeah, it feels like the timing on it might be a little awkward, so they're going to fall back. There is an Ancient Fury sitting here laying in wait, which again has changed a little bit, because before it would just shut down objectives. Now just kind of slows the attack speed of them, weakens them a little bit, right, to allow you to siege a little stronger. But it is going to be a big pickup, and then also, you know, experience gold your team's going to get feels pretty solid for him as well. So what team name but with 5Ms is going for? Might take a little while, but and Bad, I just looked up at their map. They still have 5 towers standing. They're not even sweating. They could lose like 3 fights and still probably be okay.
Yeah, we're almost at the spot last game, but with the flipped script of Team with 5Ms actually has the lead instead of being behind almost 10,000. But I'm actually a little curious what teams think of Ancient Fury comparatively to Fire Giant when you're looking for a siege, because when you go for Fire Giant, you get Fire Giant. You have 5 people with this big buff that allows you to look for a siege. Ancient Fury essentially does the same thing, but instead of buffing 5 characters, it just makes it so it's a 5v5 fight under Phoenix, because the Phoenix isn't doing like any damage, and it's just super weak and it auto super slow. So I was curious to see if they wanted to maybe use the Fire Giant to wipe out all the towers and then use that Ancient Fury to look for the siege afterwards. Unfortunately, I think the timing was just a tiny bit off where they want to go for the Fire Giant anyway, but jeez, Valo's just dead.
Yeah, I feel so. I think that's the second or third time I've seen Valo channel the ult and just get absolutely shredded before he could move an inch. And just before jumping up into the sky. Now, Fire Giant started up, and I like the response from Food Drive for Globe just because there's no way that you were going to contest this. Not the way that you needed to. And so, split push, Tegdir is going to be the main call right now. It also comes to front something that I've been a little concerned about, and that's just been Globe's ultimates all around. Like, I don't know what it is. I just feel like I haven't been seeing the Cuckoo hit the way that I'm been expecting. And it's not necessarily, there's nothing at all in this game where I'm like, oh, I'm throwing it at your feet, it's Globe's fault. Like, it's really just team name, but with 5Ms are doing incredibly well, and I feel like those burst ultimates maybe would be the end opener, right? Something to get you back into it, but I just haven't really seen the punch from the mid laner.
I mean, and that's part of the issue with Kukulkan. You are an ultimate character where if your ult hits, that fight's going to look fantastic. You're going to be able to win with just that. If the ultimate misses, it's going to feel pretty bad. And Cherry actually caught out here, does lose that purification, but he is very tanky right now. He's all by his lonesome. He does go down, and Globe hits the ultimate gore. Maybe he starts to heat up. You hit one, you hit many.
That, honestly, works out well, right? You get the one opening, like you said, you hit many. We just need to maybe let him cook for a little bit, right? Let it simmer.
Let him cook.
See where it goes. You need what, like 2-3 more of those to really turn things around. But death timers right now, like that's another factor we haven't talked a lot about in the first few weeks because the games were going pretty quick, like 25-minute ends. Death times get kind of crazy, 26 minutes and beyond. Like you'll be waiting a little while. So 1 kill does not mean the end of the world. In fact, if you look at it, they're still in a pretty bad spot, but Tegvir knocking down a tier 2 on left opens up a Phoenix. Like, the conversation for Food Drive for Globe still exists. They just need to make some really specific plays to make it happen.
And it's a good player to pull the Fire Giant off of, because usually as the soul laner, you take a little bit more poke than anyone else, and you don't really get that full sustain back with Fire Giant. So now if you do get some poke onto Cherry, you do lower him down to 2/3 half health, the sustain isn't going to be nearly as insane as if it was with Fire Giant. Yes, he's not really worried about how much damage he's doing to the tower, so that aspect of it doesn't really matter too much, but also an underappreciated part of it is how much damage tanks actually get with Fire Giant. Cherry doesn't have that anymore. He's got the Bluestone, he's got the Mystical Mail, the Glad Shield, but it is a lot different than having that strength and that intelligence from Fire Giant. It's gonna make him slow down a little bit. There's no Ancient Fury on these Phoenixes either, so it's gonna be a slow bleed into an opening that Team with 5Ms is gonna look for.
Set up for something, or I thought Vala was gonna set up for something, but realistically, kind of waiting. See where Team Name but with 5Ms are gonna get aggressive. I don't know if you see it, but I love the floating crab that's bathing. It's kind of distracting me. Now the fight jumps in, so we can jump right back into it. 3 on the side, and what a big ult from Globe. Oh man, that might be what they need to turn it around, but no, low health bars. Oh my god, the damage from Team Name but with 5Ms. Do they have the chase to get under the Phoenix? He picks somebody up with a Fenrir, and it is Karmic. Locked down, low health, rooted, but the damage, you need a little more. There's the push over the edge to send him into the ground, 6 feet under, but Scream loses his life, but you lost 3 in the blink of an eye. Such a good play from Team Name but with 5Ms, and now they just gotta play aggressive.
And they actually clear out that wave on left. Wave in middle is still here. Mike looking to heal up the team, looking to siege it again. Nothing really to be done by Food Drive for Globe here. Gonna have to give up this middle tower. 30 seconds though, potential end here.
They're setting up, walking past the Phoenix, trying to tie things up. And they've got the numbers to do it. You mentioned it, 20 seconds before happens back here in a 4v2. And Globe is not getting a lot done. The ult comes out, good damage, but you need somebody to chase him down. Tegvir's going to be TKO'd right now. Has to go to the fountain, heal up, get something done. Needs to be a massive play. Titan's only half health, and I might be able to stay alive. They're trying to hold on, but you need a little bit more. You don't have it. Happens here. Do you have the DPS? The answer is just no. And that is it, Team but with 5Ms tie us up 1-1, and they're going to send us to game 3.
A lot of things we can talk about with that game. Really good mid game there by Team with 5Ms, but I praised the Athena in the early game. Gore, there was nothing the Athena did in that mid and late game. She would just get collapsed on, forced to ult out, killed before she could even get her ult off, wasn't really looking for engages with the dash taunt. And I think a lot of it has to do with how Benny played this Hecate. If she ever dashed in, he would just drop the ult at his feet, and you were either going to get pulled forward or pushed back and take a whole ton of damage. And if she ever did actually have somebody low, like Scream under that left Phoenix, the Hecate shield just made it so she was so much tankier, or because it makes Scream so much tankier that the Athena didn't have the damage to kill. It was a really all-around, really good play by Benny and how he kind of piloted this Hecate when it became to these sieges. So shouts out to him, but I am worried about this Athena. Very good early game. Obviously, I was really happy with it, but mid game and late game, it was basically useless.
Yeah, and for a first pick, pretty much falls flat on its face, right? I mean, that is not what you want to see. So you're going to have to change something. Maybe it's the draft order. Maybe you go second. Maybe it's not Athena first pick next time around. It's all of that. Well, the only way to answer it is after this quick break. What you need to know right now is that there's been a lot of fantastic Smite, and if you're anything like me, it means that makes you... Oh, also, first, Gore inbound. If you're anything like me, and I'm assuming a lot like inbound as well, watching competitive Smite makes you then want to go play Smite, and it's kind of this, especially when you work it, it's this really, really like round effect where you almost always end up watching a lot of competitive, then you want to play, and then you watch, and then you play. Like it's a cycle. It's an Ouroboros. Anyway, the point is, if you want to play but you don't have access, you can get it. !access in the chat. It'll bring up a link. It's also the pinned message in the chat right now. You can click that link, type in the code SMITE2 esports. It will give you a key for Smite on your preferred platform, or Smite2, I should say. You can go then play for free. You will have the free rotation of gods, things like that. And then at a later date, if you decide that you're just really jamming with it, really vibing, you could then pick up a Founders Edition. As long as it's still on the alpha, as long as it's still available, you'll still be able to get all of the perks that come with that. But you can get access for free right now. Permanent access. It's not like a this weekend only thing. It is just the game. You just get access. You just get in. So make sure that you're clicking that link using !code access and all that fun stuff. SMITE2 esports when prompted to make sure that you get into the game as soon as possible, which is also what we want to do. Game 1 goes the way of Food Drive for Globe. Game 2 goes the way of Team Name, but with 5 M's. Game 3, TBD, but getting into game will be the most fun way to figure it out. It also leaves us scratching our head. The Athena was good in Game 1. A lot was good in Game 1 for Food Drive for Globe. Athena was not too good in Game 2, but there was also a Fenrir you suddenly had to deal with. A lot of changes that happen. Even though the drafts aren't vastly different from Game 1 to Game 2, so much on field changes because of them.
Yeah, and I think what you said about the Athena is what I want to touch on first. Athena was first picked in Game 2. In Game 1, there was not a ton of value on the Athena. She was picked 4th or 5th, which is where I like Athena jungle taken. Fenrir was opted as the counter first pick by the team, but with 5 M's. There was so much value for this Fenrir, and there's a lot of value with this Hecate again. I think if Food Drive for Globe stays first side, lowers the value on the Athena. I even really liked the Odin again. I liked everything else about this comp. It's just the Athena. Picking away that Fenrir first, I think, is a great way to start this P's and B's. Athena is, again, I'm fine with the Athena. It's not like I have an issue playing the Athena, even if it is in jungle. It is just something that should be more of like a counter pick, even if it's something you want to play in your comp specifically. Lower down. Prio the really important gods, the really strong gods, the Fenrirs, the Odins. I would be fine with first picking that Hecate and just taking it away from Benny. We talked about it a little bit with the Kukulkan, where Globe was not looking too hot with it. Maybe you give him a little reset and take that Hecate.
Yeah, something to change it up. It just feels like, at least when I see it, I'm thinking of Kukulkan. I'm thinking of the ults. I mean, realistically, like, tornadoes are nice. The Zephyr's nice, but like the ults, that's where your bread and butter is. And if they're not hitting, or if they're not finding what they need to be done for, maybe you change things up. Picks and bans will enlighten us to these decisions and more, potentially, because there have been some weird picks the entire time we've come over to this screen. And so what ban comes first? We've seen Food Drive for Globe, who once again is first ban, first pick, go for Loki the last few times. I believe each game so far has been Loki, and they will go for a third one, which means Scream must have a nasty Loki, or maybe everybody has a nasty Loki, because it just feels like that is taking precedent over a lot of others. The response has been barren, and I'd call it a hunch, but I just, don't see anything really changing in those departments.
Now Food Drive for Globe has the same question as they did in Game 2 given to them. Who are you taking first pick, with Loki off the board and Baron off the board? They went Athena last game. Neither of us really liked the Athena. It looked fine in the mid game, but it really fell off in that mid game. What's sticking out to me is this Fenrir. I think both games, Fenrir has just looked dominant. Game 1 happened out of clinic on the Fenrir. They lock in the Fenrir again. I love it. Because Game 2, Scream did a lot in this Fenrir also. Maybe not a ton of damage, but a lot of CC, a lot of threat on the map. He kind of put himself behind almost to make sure his entire team was 5, and it ended up working out really well. I like the Fenrir pick. Gore, we must have missed the memo about how important Athena is, because even after last game, team of 5Ms is taking that away.
Look, it's the rapid fire changes means rapid fire changing meta. And yeah, I guess I'm a couple days late maybe on it. Athena Hecate up top. I agree with you on everything you said about the Fenrir. Just dominant, powerful, strong pick, flexible at that, and that's maybe where a lot of his strengths comes in. You can get Odin. You go Odin Yamoja, throw that guy, that Fenrir into the jungle if you really wanted to, if you're feeling confident in some of the other cases. Which makes me feel really happy because I'm going to be honest, I thought for sure that was going to be Happen playing the Fenrir and there was no way Yamoja was going to get locked in. So that was very lucky. But the Athena, again, it's something, and I will say this comes with a lot of player history over Smite 1. Cherry liked to play it in the jungle and advocated for it on teams he coached, most notably last year, the J Dragons. Scream has also played it a lot in the jungle, and I think Mike has played it a lot as a support. Like, it is flexible, so you have some places for it. You get the Bacchus as well, so you're going for these I'll be tankier than you, but still be able to deal damage picks that maybe will work out.
And Cherry liked the Athena so much, they played Athena mid last year, so
yeah, good point.
Cherry wants Athena on his team however he can get it. They'll pick it again, and rounding out the rest of the comp, for Food Driver Globe with that Kukulkan. They're leaving open this last pick again for Tekvir, hovering the Susano right now. This has been the god that they've kind of gone back to. They've ran the same three gods on this in mid, ADC, and solo. It's the Odin, Cuckoo, Susano. Is it time to switch it up? I almost think with this Yamoja, the Susano just doesn't have that same threat. And could there be something funky happening where Valo's playing the Yamoja? I mean, we've already seen Athena with a lot of value. There is potential, but I've just not liked Tekvir on the Susano as much when the dual lane isn't threatening. Yamoja doesn't have that same threat. They lock in the Susano, though, going for, I mean, the same style comp that they've played in most games. And Team with 5Ms goes with this Hades last pick, which both comps have been pretty similar first, second, and third games. It's just a few things switched here and there. The Athena now going back over. Actually, it's just the Athena and the Fenrir just swapping sides for this game. But it switches how both teams play again. Fenrir, most likely going to be in the jungle. There is threat in the early game. I am very interested to see how Food Drive for Globe opt to use this Fenrir. Because Valo last game farmed it up a lot. Is he going to play like Scream? Is he going to look for ganks? Or is he going to just play that farming style that he just likes?
Well, the only way to find out is to jump into it. Game number 3, the second one of the day. And an interesting one at that. Again, winner qualifies to playoffs. And so the pressure is on. Both of these squads have worked hard to get to this point. In the third week of Swiss, both of them have worked hard to get to this point in the third game of their third set of Swiss. And so it's just the final opening. Valo, this time, as we had kind of alluded to, playing the Fenrir, maybe driving things forward. Scream will be on the Athena. Cherry back, reprising the role on the Bacchus. And so some flexibility and some interesting choices all around. PBM onto the support one more time for the Hades. And just so much, I mean, pressure we saw a little bit going towards Happen and Tekvir in game 2 in the duo lane, just knowing that they can then apply it. Scream was trying to be present on the Athena and find ganks, but, or I should say on the Fenrir, try and find ganks, but it took a little while before we really got to see them. And we might actually have some trouble here. Cherry has the tower, though. I don't think he's too worried about this.
Going to be a Sunder battle here. We haven't seen these in a little bit. But Cherry might just get bullied out before he can even Sunder it.
Yeah, if you have some sort of lockdown, it doesn't seem like they're going to go for it. And instead, they push Cherry off to the side. Healing up, comes in. Sunder is the name of the game. And like you said, a good old-fashioned Sunder battle, but it goes one way, and Karmic has the blue belt to show the hard work.
And it almost seems a flip between the two junglers. Scream actually clearing out the enemy's red buff, does the back camp, and now looking for the other side where Globus, he is level 2, and Globus is only level 1. He steals it, which is a bigger deal than it seems because that keeps Globe at level 1. If he gets that back, he hits level 2. So now he's forced to go middle, and there's no threat really on this speed buff. And this is just this is what I love about not having an Invader's Curse, because there's so much potential for what the enemies are able to, or what both teams are able to do. Scream, instead of trying to 50-50 that 2v2 over there, where they're an Athena jungle versus a Fenrir, he is now level 3. He is actually the most farmed. He's gotten the most stuff, and he's got multiple buffs around his waist. It's so interesting to see how teams respond to aggressive pressure and stuff like that. And now he's looking for this gank at left.
Yeah, responding to aggressive pressure. Tegveer and Happen step forward, and now Scream comes in. Double taunt! Oh no, Tegveer stepped back into it and pulls him right back in. First blood goes to Scream, and Tegveer will stay alive, but what a good rotation, like you said, to have the wherewithal to be there when you're needed and to counter some of the aggressive play. Now, small reset for them, but the pressure maybe gets turned up for Valo because you were already getting out farmed. Now, you're getting out rotated. You have to get something done on the Fenrir.
And most of all, I'm actually worried about Tegveer now, because we've seen Susanna with a lead, and it is very strong. But now playing behind, albeit only very slightly, but behind nonetheless to this Neath, with no Aegis, no beads to stop that ultimate, and there's an Athena on the enemy side to look for rotations. Is Tegveer going to be able to farm safely? Is he going to be able to get bullied out like he did in game 1 against the enemy? How is it going to play out? I want Scream to keep looking for ganks on this side lane to put his side lanes ahead. Benny's been fine in mid, and this is what I want to see.
I'm going to try to get that pressure. And look, you know what? We haven't gotten to talk about it in a hot minute. Taunt, as it turns out, really good form of CC and really helpful for locking down even the last second kills like that. Now you're up 2-0 if you're a jungler. Scream's feeling really good, but you're getting a response happen. Shows up over here, jump forward. They're trying to get PPM, but guess who can show up in the blink of an eye? You've got Scream now, and what you need is a little bit of action. Tegveer taunted in DPS, not quite there. PPM, the good shell, the shielding. Oh man, it keeps him alive. Forces Food Drive for Globe to rethink their aggression and fall back instead.
And you see right there the difference between how Scream has been playing and how Valo's been playing. Valo's been mostly farming, but Scream, even on the Athena, he's already got 2 ganks. He's already globally ulting over to protect his team. That's, I'll count it, 3 plays made by Scream in 3.5 minutes versus just 1 for Valo. And it doesn't seem to be whatever Valo's playing is how he dictates it. It is just, he is going to be looking to farm a little bit more. And Scream just wants to fight. He just wants to gank.
At this point, showing up everywhere that it's needed. Good luck, Karmic is going to be able to get out of here. And honestly, maybe count as lucky stars. That is not an easy scenario to escape. And you're going to be able to get at least your own blue buff this time around. But it does, I mean, the pressure is mounting. You're seeing, again, 1,000 gold isn't a whole ton. It's not even full 1,000 just yet. But like you said, Scream's being incredibly proactive all around the map, and it's causing a lot of trouble. Food Drive for Globe just don't have a spot where they feel, at least from our perspective, that they can step forward without Scream showing up.
And this is what we're going to see. This is just a free fight on the left side of the map whenever they want it. Exactly like you called it. He is 5, he's ulting over, and they're diving a tier 2 or tier 1 gore. They're diving the tower.
I mean, Cherry, like, everybody, first off, shows up to the party. Insane to me. Valo, oh no, just a second too late as well on the leap. So you don't even stop the back. They get the kills. And it's a rotation from 4. I mean, inbound, it just feels like everything went right there.
And Scream is now 4-0. The Athena has a massive, massive lead. I almost think you'd rather have Cyclone getting one of those kills just to try to bully out that left lane a little bit more. But you're seeing exactly what is going to happen if the Susanoo is not ahead in this matchup. Scream will just ult over, and if Happen's there, they'll kill Happen. Happen needs to get this purification on very, very quickly, because if he doesn't, it's just going to be taunt into kill or Hades ult into kill.
Well, there's taunt into kill, right? So that makes sense. That's 1. I was looking at Mike to see if he was going to give us the potential Hades ult into kill. But we might have to wait a little bit for that. 5-0. 1,500 gold, and well, they're going to be looking for a little more. Tegveer has to play carefully. If the root was there, maybe a little more comes out of that, but luckily for Tegveer, it's a little late. The distance is gained. You know, you talked about this in game 1. I'm going to come back to it because I think it is really interesting. The way Shell was so heavily ignored when it got added versus now being the most picked relic in this game, right? Like, it is just, it's such an interesting shift, right? And admittedly, again, like Sunder getting nerfed, blink beads, things like that, you know, where you want them, but like seeing the Shell be such a high priority, I kind of like it for all the plays that it's been, but it's very interesting to see the carries going for it as well.
Yeah, and it's funny, this game is the game that's opted for 3 shells on each team, when game 1 and game 2, there was 3 shells in total. Globe actually... Globe? Gore! This is what I expected to happen. This is insane what they are able to do with this comp that they have. Nobody is safe, not under your tower. If you are in range of my eyes, I will be diving you, and I will be minimum pulling your relic, and even after that, I have the damage to kill you.
I mean, that might be the dream, right? Like, you force their beads, that's going to be down for so long, and then what do you do? Oh, hey, I'm just going to... One of us is teleporting in, and you're still dead. Like, we didn't lose the kill. You didn't survive. We're 6-0. We're putting you down, and you can rotate in. I'm actually surprised. Maybe it's because it's early, but we haven't seen a Gold Fury yet. Like, I feel like you probably could have started one with team name but 5Ms and not really stressed too much about the repercussions, given the lead you've amassed and the way your team fights have been going.
Very, very strong early game so far for team with 5Ms. And something we've now seen Mike pick up in this game and the second game is this Life Binder. And it's a new SMITE 2 item, and it's very different from your normal support items, which makes it just cool to me. It is just a line ability that does damage, and it marks the enemy gods. Easy. What does that mark do? If you damage the person that gets marked, you get a shield and a heal. So now Hades, naturally more of an aggressive souling, actually pause on that happen, just gets exploded. Gore, dash taunt kill, dash taunt kill. Wherever it's happening, they are dying.
It kind of feels, and I mean, you laid out the formula for this earlier, but feels like in the right positioning and maybe with the right aggression around it, Athena's doing pretty good. Biddy uses his own shell, stays alive. No way does he live through that, and now has backup, has Scream for the ult. And I like this because they recognize, guys, Globe just used his ult. They're not going to be here. They're not going to fight. Let's go for the Fury. They do. PBM almost solos Globe out in mid.
Crazy.
Forces them to fall back. They get the Gold Fury for team name, but with 5Ms. They're up 7-0. And about 3,000, approaching 4,000 gold. Give them a couple hundred, and they will be there. This has been dominance.
As a SMITE player, there is nothing more demoralizing than when the enemy support has a lead on your mid laner. That's when it becomes a massive, massive issue, because at this point, there is very little threat on the mic that is actually threatening. A Cuckoo ult, Fenrir combo, Odin's there, Susanoo's there to chase him down. Maybe that kills him. But outside of that, Mike is going to be able to do just whatever he wants because of just the survivability of his character, the CC immunity his ult gets, the movement that the double dash now allows you to do with your ultimate. Mike is in a superb spot, and even beyond that, Tegveer is not in a spot to ruin this game. If he ever looks for the solo onto Cyclone Spin, you know who's going to be there? It's going to be that 4-0-2 Athena, and she's going to ruin that 1v1.
And, I mean, it's going to be deadly, too, because it's going to be burst damage, then the taunt, then the dash, or the dash, then the taunt. Whichever one comes first, it doesn't really matter. Because, like you said, 4-0-2, incredibly proactive, and it has done a lot. And I will still admit, surprised the priority that it got in picks and bans from team name, but with 5M. After what we saw with Food Drive for Globe, but now seeing it kind of come to fruition like this is why you would want to prioritize it, or at least this helps justify it, right? To make it feel better. And realistically, the only reason they aren't kind of putting the pedal to the metal right now is they've already taken all the stuff. Like, where are you supposed to go? And what are you supposed to do over the next couple of minutes? Wait for Pyro, maybe go for fire when it comes in, but you've got a long time to wait for that. In the meantime, no one on Food Drive for Globe is stepping out of their tower line, and I think for good reason based on what we've seen Scream doing over the last few minutes.
Yeah, and I do think there is something to be said about how minimal the gold lead kind of is because of how great it feels like Team with 5Ms is playing. It feels like they are almost 10,000 gold up already. It's a small lead. This is not a we can go till 20 minutes and just end the game once we get 1 or 2 fire giants. This is still a battle. This is still going to be them having to push their lead. 3k gold lead at this time is a good amount, but when you break it down, like 3,000 gold is 1 full item in one character's role. You're only getting about 600 gold, which is only like a component or 2, which is really not that much, even if it is in the early game. When you start to get that full item, that's when it becomes an issue, and this is an issue. Globe is dying in between his tier 1 and his tier 2 gore. This Cuckoo, again, it's not a Globe thing outside of missing the ultimates. It's just, if you want Cuckoo dead, you can kill him.
Yeah, not necessarily known for survivability is the Cuckoo God. And unfortunately, I mean, it's just been this, right? It's not even like we've seen a grouping. I don't think I've seen more than 2 members of Food Drive for Globe in the same place at any given time. It's just team name, but with 5Ms finding 1 to 2 people and collapsing on them, destroying one or both. Using that pressure to, you know, knock down a tower like we just saw in mid, go for Gold Fury as we saw a few minutes ago. And then reset and do it again. Now they're up 4,000 gold. You're in a good spot. And guess what? You've got a couple of them laying in wait to try and set up a single kill so they could potentially knock down a little bit more. Luckily, Cherry isn't going to wait the full time, and they're not going to find Tegveer out this time around. But Food Drive for Globe are on the prowl for some opening. They need something to get back in this game. And just to find a win, I mean, even a single kill would feel good.
Yeah, and they actually see Cherry back there. They saw Cyclone back there too, so there is a small opportunity here to get this Gold Fury. Mike is the only one here. This is free almost.
Well, it's set up, and yeah, there's the ult. Finally, like, that's what I've been waiting for, is to see one that is on time with the right amount of damage. That's what we get here. And if Globe does that, I have utter faith in this Kukul God to be able to guide things to the right direction. And that does take a little chunk of gold and lead away from Team Name of 5Ms. It's a small victory, and you're going to need a lot more than that to pile on to make sure it actually culminates in anything, but small victories can lead to big victories. You just have to find them in the right spot. Unfortunately, you're not going to get the Pyromancer, though, because much like that Fury was free, this Pyro is going the other way for absolute free.
And I think the bigger positive there is, yes, getting the Gold Fury, but it's also taking away that Gold Fury from the enemy. So a bit of a gold swing there by bad backs there by Team But with 5Ms. Very strange timing on walking through the wards, going to your buff, backing where they see you. Weird play by Team with 5Ms. Probably the first actual misplay we've seen, but either way, Tegveer looking for the 1v1. I thought it was going to be a lot more exciting than that was, because he had ultimate. Yeah. And it looks so clean, like with Susano, when you full kit, you're like, he's going to drop the ult and he's going to go for the all-in, but sometimes Susano just pokes and half ults you.
Right now, it's a small buff, but admittedly, pretty big pickup if you are the team that's behind. Maybe able to tank an extra objectives, try and start a fight. Cherry's in an awkward spot, and I thought was looking for Tegveer, might still be technically looking for Tegveer, and might also get caught out. It kind of depends on the rest of the team. It looks like most people on Food Drive for Globe are just trying to back, which is going to give them that nice little reset. And ultimately, nothing too crazy happens. Meanwhile, and this is something I didn't catch, thankfully Doug shows us, but they are, much like you said, just going behind tier 2s. Poor Globe. There's nothing you could do about it either, right? I mean, it's just a jump in, knock up. By the time you land and have any sort of response, you're dead.
And they're still just looking for dash taunts. Happens dead, dash taunt dead. So much CC on the side of Team But with 5Ms. It's not like just dash taunt, and if you can live that, you're out. It is still silence from PBM, knockups and stuns from Cherry. Benny's even got that, what's it called? The sleepy thing. Whatever that's called. Mez. He's got the Mez.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. There's a lot of CC. And with that CC, they're going to this Fire Giant. It's on the Sunder Karmic to try to steal this.
Sage gets dropped. Karmic in the neighborhood trying to get things done. Sunder's a little too early. Or maybe right on time for the other side. And now, unfortunately for Karmic, when the steal goes bad, you just die for it. 0-3-0. The Odin gets shut down. Still 2 levels over Cherio. Don't know where he's been getting the farm, but it only goes so far in the grand scheme of things when Fire Giant goes the other way. 12-0, 5,000 gold, yet another tier 1 tower. In fact, all the tier 1 towers. Nope, my eyes are blind. There's still one standing in the left side for Food Drive for Globe. But a lot of pressure and prevalence available for Team Namebo with 5Ms. How do you want to see him approach this? I mean, you've got such a massive lead right now if you're the Chaos team. Where do you go with it?
I mean, you got the massive lead and you've got globals. I think the best course of action is to push up 2 lanes at once. Mike being up here is perfectly fine because he is unkillable with his current build. He's got the blink and he's got that purification. Push up mid and then push up the dual lane waves. What you want to really do is you want to have your Athena and your Neith able to use their ultimates outside of just a 5v5 fight. So you have to have some sort of split. The best thing I think is Scream being ready to ult over, and Scream's actually just going right to just push a wave and then maybe look to ult over very soon. The best thing is just to not be 5-man grouped when you have these globals. Mike, again, very little threat onto him. Gold Fury also being done by team with 5Ns. This is not a Ancient Fury, it is just a Gold Fury, so it slows down their siege. I assume it's just to try to get Ancient Fury up as quick as possible, because usually doing Gold Fury when you have fire just slows down your siege, but it doesn't really matter when you have such a massive lead. You can just look for plays.
Oh, picked up, brought in, and again, this might actually cause trouble. Yeah, Cherry belly flops in because now you've got an Athena. Taunts on 2. Oh, no. Damage is there. You've got a little bit of return from Globe, but it is just not enough happen. Globe, and it's looking like Tekbir as well. 3 knocked down, and it's a hat trick for Team Name, but with 5Ms. 15-0. And I even like this. Karmic is in a bad spot, but why bother chasing the Odin? You're going to get more value from killing the tower. And that is going to be the goal. You've got 10 seconds left before happen. And I like this. Yeah, push forward. Go for the Phoenix. That's going to be the call. Karmic has retreated back to the base. Valo coming behind, potentially. But nowhere near in time to save the Phoenix. That Fire Giant, like you said, maybe stalled out a little bit with the Gold Fury. But it still cracks open the base and gets exactly what Team Namebo with 5Ms want.
And so far, Gore, nearly a perfect game by Team Boat with 5Ms. Very few mistakes. And even if it was a mistake, it's not a punishable mistake that could, you know, throw their lead or anything like that. It is a nearly flawless game we've seen so far. I think a big mistake that Food Drive for Globe have made in this game is how they're itemizing, I think, is making this game a little bit harder than it needs to be. The Hussar's Wings items, Cherry's 3rd item, gives you a Winged Blade effect. Hades ult works right now as a slow. A free way to get out of Hades ult is just using Hussar's Wings, and it's a very low cooldown, and it makes it so if you are ulted by Hades, you can trade this 30-second cooldown for Hades' entire ultimate cooldown. The problem is, Happen is just food right now because his only way to survive is going this purification. He's also got this Screaming Gargoyle, which, when you're behind like this, you really can't make good use out of. You're getting dash taunted and dying before being able to use it. So there's just no real way for him to live a lot of these fights. He is just dying. There's nothing he can really even do. And at the end of the day, if you're playing Yemoja and you can't peel for your team and you can't live, you're not doing anything really. And props to team with 5Ms. They're playing very well around this Athena. The dash taunts are a pain. There's nothing that they can really do to get picks because of these globals, but I think different items for Food Drive for Globe could have made this game a little bit more salvageable, but when you are down this much, maybe there's really nothing to be done.
Well, defense, that's going to be the name of the game, and making it happen is going to be difficult. In fact, speaking of happen, I haven't really gotten to see too much out of the Yemoja at all. I mean, 0-6-0, hasn't really gotten to do too much this game. And I mean, we've seen it a lot, but like emojis from behind, you just can't really, like, you're such a setup god if you can't step forward, and let alone if you don't have backup. Not a lot you can really do. In fact, if anything, the most impressive thing I think in the slash lines for Food Drive for Globe right now is the fact that Valo has managed to avoid death every single time. But that is something that is, I mean, just overall, it's just going to have to change. Globe, unfortunately, goes wide with the ult. Scream playing aggressive here. And all you need is a little bit of lockdown, maybe waiting for the cooldowns. Hades ult finds 3, forces out a purification very early on. Scream finds the kill and is going to ult over immediately. Now you are going to be looking for more, chasing them down. The answer is no. It's a fallback, because guess what? Fire Giant's back on the board, and it's a much better target than anybody you could have found on the other side.
And Gore, this is when it's an issue. Your Cuckoo can't farm without getting soloed by the Athena. She can be just anywhere on the map. And, I mean, I like this. This is a good play by Team But with 5Ms, because why risk a 50-50 on this Fire Giant? Happens walking up. Let's just kill him and then pull it again. And at this point, Food Drive for Globe is just going to be walking in 1v1 and just dying. Like, there's nothing else that they can really do. You mentioned Val has not died yet. Throw up a mark in that death column, because everyone is just walking up and dying, because there's just no threat right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're at the point 18 down, or 18 to 0. You're down so much in kills. You have to make a Hail Mary play. Maybe this is the time. Fire Giants might have been left by the wayside. And you go for a small ultimate. Techbeer steals it away. It's a massive play for him. But everybody dies in the meantime. 20 to 0. Screams coming right back into the fray. And it feels like you finally get something going right for you. But as it happens, everything that could go wrong still does, and maybe it slows down this Phoenix Siege, maybe it saves this from being a game end, but Team Name But with 5Ms move forward, and it's going to be up to a pretty massive defense for Food Drive for Globe to make this stop.
And I think they're going to go for the end. You have Hades ult, you have Purifications to stop the Fenrir ultimate. They're looking to end.
Walk in, Hades ult, good. Switch on to follow, just as good. Didn't have any kill or deaths until just a minute ago, but now it's 2. Globe joins him in the gray screen. That penalty box is getting full as they find kill after kill. Taunt back, but the more important thing, the one that's going down, is the Titan, and that means Team Name But with 5M step their tickets to playoffs.
And Gore, I don't know how you're stamping your ticket to playoffs better than a 24 to 0 game. That is the most emphatic slam dunk stamp of all time. And honestly, what a phenomenal game there by Team But with 5Ms. Again, I don't think of a single mistake in that entire game other than the one Gold Fury. And even that was just a small blip in the entire up chart of that gold. The entire time, just nearly flawless games. Like, you say flawless as in like that was just really good all around. That was near perfect of a game that you could possibly have.
Yeah, I mean, it is clean literally except what, like the one Fire Giant steal and one snuck Gold Fury. Like, outside of 2 very in particular moments, you get everything you could have asked for of your Team Name But with 5Ms. 10, 0, and 11. 15 assists there for Cherio, but Scream with that insane slash line probably stands out the most. Game 1 was a pleasant surprise to see Athena picked up, and she did pretty well. Game 2, first pick, did not agree with it, and it did not match the priority. But Inbound, I'm having trouble arguing with Scream on this one. I think that went about as perfect as you could have asked.
Yeah, I mean, across the board, Scream does stick out, but across the board, everyone is doing their part. And something that doesn't really show up on the scoreboard is Cherry does this really smart thing where he defers some of his farm to make plays elsewhere. Like, Mike would just come over, farm his wave, and Cherry would just rotate and make a play. It's just a small thing that doesn't really get noticed. And actually, he was down 2 levels at a point because of it. But it's a small thing that if Mike gets ahead on this Hades, he's undeal-withable. You were already ahead on the Bacchus. Just get all 5 ahead and just make the game super easy instead of having your support be somebody that could get picked. So it's not something that shows up, but it was a very cool thing to see Cherry spread the wealth of their XP and gold lead.
Yeah, and being able to not only find a pretty big win, but they move themselves to the best spot that you could possibly be after today. They move themselves to playoffs. They get to wait a little while. They advance to stage 4. Meanwhile, it's not the end of the road. Again, if your team name, if your food drive for Globe, you're just going to go to the 2-1 position where, guess what? 3 teams next week will be qualifying as well. We're going to be taking 8 overall, 1 today, 1 tomorrow for 2 this week, 3 next week to make it 5, and then 3 in that last week to bring us to 8. All the way to playoffs. 8 as well, as we saw earlier, is Basket of E-Kittens, who got knocked down. That will be going to stage 3. So nobody in Swiss is getting eliminated. Nobody's going anywhere outside of the Founders Edition. They might be going to a different stage of the Founders Edition, but they'll still be around. But for team name, but with 5 M's, they get to move to the playoffs, which means a little bit of a break, but also a stamp directly to stage 4, and much like you had said, a step closer to Vegas, which is where all of these teams are going. For now, though, let's take a look at the schedule, see what we're in store for this weekend, what we've already seen, and what is yet to be seen. As we saw earlier, Mockingbird versus Giovanni Giorgio. That was a very, very hot EMEA matchup. Tomorrow, it's going to be MMP versus Project Win and Team Risk versus Smoke Break. That is going to be, again, very exciting in the morning. You're not going to want to miss that to tune in at 11 a.m. here, Eastern, on twitch.tv/SmiteGame. Game. And of course, if you're wondering what is going to come on after EMEA, well, that's where North America comes into it. Employment LARPers and Theater Thugs. One of those teams will be knocked down to stage 3. The other one will continue their life in Swiss. Meanwhile, Cowabunga and Name in Progress will do exactly what we just saw. Food Drive for Globe and Team Name, but with 5 M's go in. Name in Progress, a tall task ahead of them inbound because Cowabunga is not a team you want to get matched against.
Now, Cowabunga's been probably far and away the best team we've seen in NA, the equivalent of Team Risk in EU. But a couple of those games stick out to me. Smoke Break and Team Risk is going to be a phenomenal game. Winner goes to the playoffs. Loser goes to that 2-1 slot. And then the off-stream Borscht and Scrumptious game. Gore. Couple banger games on that Sunday slate.
Yeah, it is something that, again, you're not going to want to miss pretty much any of it, which will be a great news if you have multiple monitors. But if you don't, you're going to want to make sure that you're here again tomorrow, 11 a.m., when things kick off for EMEA, and then again continue into NA as we continue Swiss. We start qualifying. We start eliminating some of these teams from Swiss. It's going to be very, very fun, and you don't want to miss a peep of it. But for myself, from Inbound, everyone back in production, everyone at hi-rez Studios, thank you all so much for watching. And until tomorrow, we'll be seeing you.
Made in Georgia.